He came home today.
We'll give it one more minute. It's supposed to start at 6.
Give it 2 minutes. I forgot something.
We're gonna give it 2 more minutes for the council president.
Excuse me.
I'm just curious how many people have come to one of these before? I recognize some faces.
First time, everyone.
For the assessment stuff?
I can't.
You've come. Sean's come.
Meeting, how many people have attended a meeting in this building before?
For the reassessment.
It's my first time coming to a meeting.
Oh, it is. All right. Okay.
Now, just remember, guys, this is, it's a non-formal meeting, right? This is just a public, let's have a chat, right? So if you have questions about, your taxes or the tax assessment, reassessments and how certain things are done. And I believe we have a gentleman online from the appraisal company that can maybe offer some more guidance on certain things that, to make people help people understand more of the process.
I do have we'll go through the presentation. It's not nearly as long as last time, but we'll get through it and then we'll get to the question and answer, but especially if there's people who haven't been here before.
Just a reminder, what,
Ask a question now.
Sure, we're waiting for Pat to come back.
Sure,
Yeah, go ahead.
It's two things that I think most of the people in this room want to know. The first thing is, why do we pay this company to do the reassessments for us? And the second key question is, when property values go down, are they going to adjust the taxes? And is the ratio that you charge per thousand going to change?
I'll address all of that.
You say, what do they charge? Or
You want to know what the cost is? I have a slide that goes over that. Yeah.
how much we paid them for this service?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
okay, yep, I got that.
I couldn't,
No worries.
I didn't
We'll
know if he
cover all
said
that.
what or why. And I was like, I don't know what the right, yeah.
All right, Pat.
And just remember too, we're all taxpayers too, right? So,
Me too.
and none of us like taxes.
All right.
I think we, will rise for the flag.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yep, I'll do that.
Give it another 30 seconds.
Got it, third question.
We're gonna just, if we could, just rise for the flag and, for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under
under
God.
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Again,
Go ahead.
Okay.
so this is question number 3. When we awarded the bid to this company to do this service for us, how many competitive bids did we collect? And when did we?
I'm gonna answer that real quick. We are gonna open a Q&A at the end, but to answer that just real quick. Yeah, so the bids, we went out to bid in 2020. Packets were sent to 3 companies, only 1 returned.
Let me just ask, because I dealt a lot with the township, and I don't mean this as a black eye in anybody's nose, but
Yeah.
the response time of employees is pretty stressed. They have a lot going on. So having them make the phone calls to find out, you just said that 3 companies were asked and only 1 responded, correct?
Yes,
Do you have a log of phone calls made to the 2 companies that did not respond?
no,
Was there follow-up or just an email sent and you expected them to see it and reply?
So,
What happened?
no, well, this isn't, oh my gosh.
Oh,
This one?
hold
down
on
here?
1 second.
Right.
If I'm running the business, I want as many estimates as possible. And when people don't respond, I would then go out and look for more professional companies that could come back to me with estimates. I don't see how you move forward with a project with only 1 estimate, with 1 job.
So
Especially, is there anybody in the town that works for the company that got awarded the work?
no.
okay, I can take this because
Okay.
it's budget stuff. Fine, purchasing. Okay, so 1, there's nobody for the township that works for the company. So just to be clear, that would not be permitted, right? So that's the first thing. Second, so to address your issues with going out to bid. So the law dictates how townships go out to bid.
Really, really, really sorry. Whenever you participate in the conversation, you always tell me what New Jersey State requires or what this is. I want to see a council and employees that go above and beyond the minimum requirement of what their employees took their office to do. I want to see them going above and beyond.
So, okay, so right,
So now I'm gonna be quiet.
okay, okay, it's okay. Okay, so I will address that. Okay, so the law requires that you go out to bid for when you have an expense over $44,000, right? And for when it's for a contract for a certain number of years, right? You can't have a contract over a year for specific things, and this would be one of those things, right? We have a multi-year contract, you're required to go out to bid. It's actually a courtesy that the township reach out to vendors, multiple vendors, right? And send them our bid package. Here's the bid package, right? That's a courtesy that we do for those vendors. That's not a requirement. So we are going above and beyond to contact the vendors that, hold on for 1 second, to contact the vendors that are capable of doing this kind of work. There are not a lot of vendors that are capable in the state of New Jersey of doing this kind of work. So that you just got to keep that in mind, right? We did go above and beyond those requirements to reach out to them and let them know, here's our bid package, right? Our QPA, our assessor, myself is.
You're telling me that all you did was contact these people and they didn't get back to you?
We can't look like we're soliciting. We can't, no, there's bid requirements. There's bid requirements. We can't look like we're soliciting and favoring individual people.
They're not. If there's 10 companies licensed to do this service, you should be sending your bid package to all 10, treating them all equally. Okay, does this not make sense? And then you make phone calls to each one of them.
Bid too, wasn't it?
So that every licensed contract
Handle
is
it.
getting the opportunity to do. I'm gonna have to leave in a few minutes because I'm gonna take over the meeting, and it's not my intention.
Don't they?
What I'm simply saying is, there's so much wrong up there. We have a new mayor, a lot of great new ideas. We need to clean house. We really need to clean up. We need to straighten out a lot of issues, and by making us, the citizens, aware of what you're doing, the way you are tonight, is something that needs to happen far more.
Sean, if you could just,
Mr. Mayor, for making this
no problem, thank you.
Can I ask a question real quick? Pertaining to what he's saying? If you don't mind.
If you just, sorry, I'll just give me 1 second, because I don't want to lose track of what he was saying. I just want to ask another question. So when we go out to bid, right, is it companies that actually put themselves into this database that, you know, when we do it, that we only have these people, or how does that process work? I mean, we can't just pick up the phone and start calling people.
No,
correct? Right?
Right, so the bid specs and the bid package were sent out to the companies that are licensed in the state of New Jersey to do this kind of work.
How many companies?
Yeah, that's 3 companies.
There's not a lot of companies that do.
One of them is out of business now, so there's two.
Now there's 2. I'm literally telling you the truth. There are now 2 companies in the state of New Jersey that do this.
The state of New Jersey can do this type of work. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Currently, yes.
You should have been like a bulldog, hungry as hell, going after both of them to get you estimates. If there's only 2 companies, you needed to be getting some estimates, and I'd have your attorney looking into whether or not you can use companies from New York State, upstate New York, or Pennsylvania, and find out what the differences are. Increase your pool of contractors, and you're gonna reduce your cost drastically.
I have to say again, there's only so much we can do that's within no, there are listen, if we were to do something that is outside the confines of the law, we'd be having a different conversation right now.
Companies, you should have got at least 2 estimates from 2 companies.
It's not about estimates, it's about getting bids. They're 2 different things. No, but you're not understanding legally, they're 2 different things. To have a bid, you have to legally go out for bid. They have to respond on a specific date by a specific time. That's not the minimum requirement. That is the state requirement. We cannot go out afterwards if there's someone who's a qualified bidder.
Call the governor, and you tell the governor we're a little fly on the horse's rear end, and we need to make an exception. And is it all right if I make 25 phone calls to 25 contractors in New York, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey to find somebody else to do my tax assessment? Because I need estimates. You give up too easy. And if you worked for me, you would be able to. And I got news for you, you kind of work for everybody in this room, okay? So make phone calls. Get more estimates, and we're not doing this just on this subject. I'm gonna jump one place else because I'm talking to you a lot, and this is being weighed very heavy on my mind. When you talk about the MUA and where you're installing pipe, you're never specific. So the next time we have a meeting and we're reviewing what the MUA is doing with all that money they have in the bank, you need to be able to say specifically, from this corner to here is 775 feet, and I'm running a pipe from here to here. Then I'm running a pipe from here to here, and that's gonna cost me X, Y, Z. Because the MUA, I've been to those meetings, they're not collecting estimates. They talk as vague as you do, and you don't talk about 775 feet. You're not talking about whose property is getting the pipes run to and whose property is not getting the pipes run to. Because when you run those pipes to my property, you just made me a small fortune. Thank you very much. Because I can do all kinds of crazy stuff with my property. So where you run those lines really matters. My last subject for the evening, I'm very sorry, everybody. Mr. Mayor, I sat in a meeting where Corey, right? What's Corey's last name?
Stark?
Corey, over objections of people in the room and very good sense that the people in the meeting room were making, Corey approved a single parking spot for each one of those senior citizen apartments. Now, Corey did that, I believe, possibly because he really had some strong feelings about it before he walked into the room. But the bottom line is simply this: they made that rule, so it's one parking space per living space, and it's a senior citizen housing. Now, when the subject came up, Mr. Mayor, and I'm kind of directing this to you because you got to look into this. When the subject came up, people were like, well, husband and wife, senior citizen couples are going to buy these places. Where's the other spouse going to park? And they talked about parking in the street. And then the question came up of what happens when it snows and you can't park in the street? You got to plow the roads. The whole issue was they scurried the entire issue. The bad thing, Mr. Mayor, isn't the fact that we made this one exception for this one favorite son of Vernon, okay? It's the problem it sets a precedence, if I said that word right. And that means when I want to build a building on my land, I can follow his example and just do one parking space per unit. It's the first multi-dwelling building that we built in town in many years. And we dropped the hammer on parking spaces the first time we were asked. I don't think that was the right thing to do, and you should look into it.
So you're talking about the new build, the fifth,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I know there's underground parking too, right?
It's one parking space per unit. Even though there's underground, you may be under the building. When you take the number of parking spaces and you divide it by the number of living units where two people are gonna be expected to live, there's only one per place. And I was in the meeting, it said, so it is what it is. Okay? So I'm gonna be quiet now, step outside because I don't want to take over your home, right? Very sorry.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I hope to speak with you in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're gonna have, thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
We're gonna have a Q&A at the end. Everyone's gonna have a chance. There's not gonna be a time limit. However many questions you wanna ask. I'm gonna get through the presentation first. I'm gonna try to go faster than I did last time. So a little introduction. I'm Kristen Umansky. I'm the certified tax assessor for Vernon Township. We also have on Zoom Rick Del Gershio. He's the owner of Associated Appraisal Group. He's a state certified general real estate appraiser. He's also a certified tax assessor. We have our mayor, Anthony Rossi. We also have our CFO, Danelle Bright, with us today. And I apologize, this computer doesn't have PowerPoint, so I'm gonna be scrolling through a PDF. Throughout the presentation, I'm going to use assessment terms that I'm very well aware that maybe you're not familiar with. So here's just a few of them that you're going to hear me say a lot. We have ad valorem taxation. This is Latin for according to value. It's tax that is based on a percentage of the value of property. All counties in New Jersey are taxed at 100% of value. This is the most common way in the country, not just New Jersey, to establish property taxes. Mass appraisal. This is a method used to value a group of properties as of a certain date. In New Jersey, that date is October 1st of the pre-tax year. So for 2024, the valuation date is October 1st of 2023. This is accomplished by using common data, standardization, and statistical testing, most commonly used for property assessment for taxation purposes. Vernon is not reinventing the wheel. These are established methods and practices in relation to assessments and property taxation. Sales ratio. It's the ratio of a property's assessment and sale price. For example, a property that sold for $350,000 and is assessed for $275,000 has a sales ratio of 78.57%. The tax levy, we're going to talk about the tax levy quite a bit, is the total amount of money to be collected through property taxes to cover the municipal, school, and county budgets. The tax rate is the amount of tax paid per $100 of assessed value. The tax rate is based on the total value of all property within a municipality to provide the necessary tax revenue to cover the municipal, school, and county budgets, which is the tax levy. And then an inspection, we're going to go over in detail as well. It's a walkthrough of the property, both interior and exterior, for property record card maintenance. And like I said, we'll go over that whole process a little later and try to clarify some of the confusion there. In the state of New Jersey, we have what's called revaluations, and we also have two different forms of reassessment. A revaluation, often referred to as a reval for short. They're ordered by the County Board of Taxation when a township's assessment base meets certain criteria. A revaluation is considered an emergency and must be completed by an outside firm approved by the New Jersey Division of Taxation. A revaluation requires 100% inspection and a full tax map review by the Division of Taxation. We'll go over the criteria in the next slide. A reassessment can be applied for by the municipality or ordered by the County Board of Taxation. A reassessment is performed by the tax assessor fully in-house or with the aid of an outside firm. A reassessment requires 100% inspection. And then annual reassessment can be applied for by the municipality or ordered by the County Board of Taxation. It's a reassessment that is performed every year and keeps assessment in line with market value. A full revaluation or reassessment with 100% inspection must be completed prior to an annual reassessment being implemented. And the inspection cycle for record maintenance is a requirement during an annual reassessment program. I am very guilty of using the 10-year revaluation window of time myself. But the truth is, it's a myth that is only required every 10 years. These are the criteria or reasons a County Board of Taxation or the Division of Taxation could order a revaluation for a municipality. A director's ratio of 85% or less. This is an average weighted sales ratio from the director's sales ratio study. A ratio less than 85% is considered to be in non-compliance. A ratio greater than 100% would also indicate a reval or reassessment is needed. Coefficient of deviation greater than 15%. This measures the uniformity of assessments throughout a municipality. The lower the percent, the more uniform the assessments are in relation to sales. An assessment base with a deviation greater than 15% is considered to be in non-compliance. I've done a review of 2023 sales and compared them to our initial reval in 2020, the assessments that were established then. And the indication is that Vernon Township would have a ratio of like 60 to 65%, and our coefficient of deviation would be around 20%. Had we not implemented the annual reassessment program, I believe that Vernon would be ordered for a revaluation to be completed for the 2025 tax year. Approximate cost of that would be $1.5 million. Revenue loss due to appeals. If the municipality is losing a lot of money in tax appeals, that is a clear indicator that the tax burden is not being distributed equitably and fairly based on market value. Neighborhood zoning changes which affect value in part or all of a taxing district. If there's a major zoning change that would affect the market value, that could indicate a reassessment or a reval is needed. Lack of adequate records. If a municipality has no property record cards or incomplete records, a reval or a reassessment may be needed in order to create the property record cards. And finally, if a municipality doesn't meet any of those other criteria after a 10-year period of time, that's when the 10-year rule kind of comes into effect. I just caught myself again. I called it a rule. It's not, but I'm totally guilty of saying it myself for sure. This is a really important slide. I give this example at every presentation I give. Will a reassessment raise my taxes? Overall, the reassessment or revaluation is revenue or tax neutral. It does not change the total amount of taxes to be collected, and it redistributes the tax burden based on current market value. So I don't know if you guys can see it clearly on the screen, but in 2023, so if you picture this as a pizza pie, the size of the pie is the total tax levy. So in Vernon Township in 2023, we don't have 2024 numbers yet. Our total tax levy, or the amount of money needed to be collected through property taxation, was $80,372,636.09. That's the size of the pie in Vernon Township. In 2023, we had 13,543 properties that paid property taxes. That's how many slices of the pie we have in Vernon Township. In 2023, the average residential assessment was $262,600. That would be the size of that property slice. And the average tax bill for a residential property was $6,809.22, or 0.008% of the pie. So no matter what we're talking about today, it's really important to understand that the reassessment doesn't impact the size of the pie at all. It's just changing the size of each individual slice. The pie, the size of the pie, or the amount of money that is collected through taxation is strictly established based on the budgets for the three, governing bodies that we're collecting money for. So municipality for sure, the county, our portion of county taxes, and the schools. This is a history of our tax levy from 2019 to 2023. If anyone wants a PDF of this, I can definitely email it out if you want a copy of it, because this is small and hard to read. But essentially, from 2019 through 2023, the levy has increased anywhere from 1.5% to 4.2% within a given year. And that, again, is just based on how much money needs to be collected to cover the various budgets. Where did your tax dollars go? This is just a pie chart of the 2023 tax rate. Total tax rate was 2.593 per $100 of assessed value. The 1.462 of that is the school budget. And then the municipality is the second largest at 0.612. And then the county at 0.48, and then very small amount for open space and library tax. This is how you calculate your property taxes. Excuse me. Anyone who's had the pleasure to talk to me over the past month knows I'm dealing with a little bit of a coughing issue. So something that happens a lot over the summer, especially, is in Vernon Township, the state is almost always delayed in approving the final tax rate. So we all get our tax bill for third quarter as an estimate. And I understand why a lot of people take that tax bill and they'll multiply it by 4 and just completely panic a little bit, because that's what they think their yearly taxes are. But that's not how taxes are calculated. So the way you calculate the tax is you could take your assessment, divide it by 100, and then multiply it by the tax rate. And that's how much taxes you're gonna pay in the current calendar year. And again, we don't know what that tax rate is gonna be until like June, late June usually. Just do not multiply your estimated third quarter bill by 4. And then when you get your final bill, understand that that is third and fourth quarter of the current year and first and second quarter of the next year. So don't add those 4 quarters together either, because those aren't even for the same calendar year. So that's really, you could go on our website. That's a little screenshot of our website, and you can see how much you're being billed for taxes for the past 2 years. I think it goes back usually. Or you could just do the calculation by applying the tax rate to your assessment. This is our revaluation and reassessment history. And the 2020 reval was actually ordered in 2013, which is just 5 years after the Myers 2009 revaluation. The reason it was ordered so quickly is because we were losing a lot of tax appeals. The required tax map review that is part of the revaluation process took years and actually resulted in a brand new tax map that was implemented in 2019 and cost us as taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. That process of having a new tax map done is very lengthy and it's delayed the 2020 revaluation from happening. So it was ordered in 2013, I think 2015, and it didn't actually get put in place until 2020. The delay cost us a lot of money, not just for the map, but also an additional $1 million lost in tax appeals. This is actually very common. It's very common for the tax map to hold up a revaluation. I know another municipality in the county went through that over the past several years, HOPAC, and they finally got the revaluation on the books. As I mentioned before, I believe Vernon would have been ordered had we not done the annual reassessment program for the 2025 tax year. It certainly would have been needed based on my analysis of where the 2020 assessments were versus what homes are selling for now. So why do an annual reassessment program? Vernon has a very diverse real estate market. Lake communities, lakefront homes, condos, we have hotels that are actually, each hotel room is an individual residential unit. We have regular subdivisions. We have resort commercial properties. We have large luxury homes. We have small seasonal summer homes. Very diverse in this town. And it's also a very large town with a lot of neighborhoods. So that's one reason to do annual reassessment. Another reason is because of the tax appeals, and we'll talk about this quite a bit tonight. Maintaining assessments at market value instead of an equalized market value takes the burden of filing a tax appeal off the property owner. Maintaining assessments at market value means the township will lose fewer appeals. Between 2008 and 2019, the township lost between $3 and $13 million in ratables per year during county tax board appeals. This doesn't even take into consideration state tax board appeals, which we're still, from this time frame that we're still dealing with. Those lost ratables create a tax shift towards everyone who didn't win an appeal. And it breaks the uniformity of assessment and the equitable distribution of the tax burden. From 2009 to 2019, the township refunded $2,277,264, or an average of $207,024 per year in taxes just during county tax board appeals. From 2020 to 2022, 2023, there's a typo on that, sorry about that. 2020 to 2023, the township has given back $61,406, for an average of $15,351.50 per year during county tax board appeals. Sean here, Sean here. So this is, a little bit of a cost analysis. This came up last year. So I just updated it based on, the past year data I've had and also speaking with other assessors. So there's basically the three scenarios when it comes to reassessing. We could do a revaluation, one of the order. We do periodic reassessment. Or you could do the annual reassessments. So this is the cost breakdown as best as I can estimate. It's hard to estimate what a new contract would be for a full reevaluation or reassessment and where bids would come in at, but speaking with other assessors recently, bids for full reassessments and revaluations are coming in around $100 per line item, which would put a similar bid in Vernon around 1.4 million, so like 1.4, $1.5 million. It's also hard to anticipate in this analysis what the lost money in tax appeals would be. So I've left that amount blank for the periodic reassessment. But you can see here, or maybe you can, I'm not sure how clear it's coming up. So if you take into consideration the amount of money lost, the contract price of the 2020 revaluation, and the tax map costs and everything, that 2020 revaluation actually cost Vernon Township $3,247,322. The annual reassessment contract price for the 5 years is $492,800. We now have a line item to maintain our tax maps. And we've lost $33,840 in tax appeals. So total cost so far, we still have 2 more years of appeals to get through. It's $555,652 for 5 years. And then if we were to switch to some sort of like periodic reassessment, here it says every 5 years, because that's something that's going to figure out at one point. But anytime you're going to complete a full revaluation, that contract price will probably be around $1.4 to $1.5 million. So however much money you lost in appeals during all that time. So that cost would be around $1.5 million. Anytime you decide to do a periodic reassessment. We also don't take into consideration the legal fees that we incur. I have a separate slide for that. Here's our county tax appeal history. Going back to 2008. So hundreds of thousands of dollars a year were being refunded from 2008 through 2019 on a yearly basis. We're also losing ratables. A lot of, can we wait till the end? Or no?
I got a whole sheet here and you're going through really important stuff.
Yeah,
Can we just wait?
Just-
go ahead.
You didn't lose that money. You just.
We refunded it.
Yeah, because you would charge too much money. We lost $68,000. That's what I'm saying is, and in reality, you didn't lose $68,000. You just didn't charge us $68,000. And you didn't collect more money from.
No,
us.
we refunded the taxes because you were over.
So then you gave them back.
Yes,
It's a bad thing.
no, yeah, but it's a bad thing to take people's money when you shouldn't be taking people's money.
But you shouldn't put it down if you lost it. You didn't.
You didn't lose it because we never paid you that much. So it isn't like you made
Hold on, stop.
No.
We lost the rate. No, I don't think you're
Guys,
understanding what I'm, you're not okay.
Go ahead, somebody else.
Okay.
Well, what I'm just wondering is, does that mean that the assessment, or, I mean, if so many people are winning these appeals and this money has to go back, was it done wrong to start with?
The burden, no, the issue,
That's-
no, hold on. So the issue was when the reval was done. The revaluation was done in 2009. You have to look at the markets in 2009 and what houses were worth in 2009, right? So between 2009 and let's say 2020, when the reval was done, 2020, when the reval was done again? Mess up 2019 and 2020 because I had to budget for it at different times. So when the reval was done in 2020, there was a difference in those assessments, right? So during that period of time, during that 9-10 years, right, like a lot of properties decreased in value. People were aware of that. Some people and fought that, and they won those, right? Because they were being overcharged. They won that a lot. The issue is that that reduces ratables. When ratables decrease, you still have a full pie that you need to pay out. So the people that did not go and appeal their taxes are now going to be paying more because that has to be made up somewhere else.
So that increases the tax rate the following year. And also the money that we're refunding, however I'm saying that's, you don't agree with, the money that's being refunded was not budgeted to be refunded. That was budgeted to pave your roads or provide whatever service. And now that service cannot be provided because it has to be refunded through taxes.
And for the record, the township, right, we're still required to pay the schools and the county 100%. So it's not like when we refund taxes, we're getting your taxes are, let's say 20%, 25% municipal, right? 75% county and school. We're not getting that 75% back from the county and the school. So I don't like, yeah, it's a loss in dollars. It's a loss in dollars for the township, but then it's charged back to the rest of the taxpayers that either haven't appealed or they're already being overcharged anyway.
From this administration forward, and then money is getting back, you have to look at where we're spending money and cut money out. Okay, we need to do more services for less money. In Vernon, we have to shop smarter. Your issue with the company who does this, where you didn't formally get bids, we do that 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. We're doing the minimum all the time, everywhere. It isn't just you. You're not the only guilty party or department, but it's done everywhere. And the new mayor is gonna reduce the overhead of running the administration. And that's what we're gonna do, so don't worry about paying this company. When's the next time the bid for this service comes up? When do we put it out to bid next?
We're working on, it would go, I guess, at the end of this year.
Okay.
So, well, and I,
Number 4, are you ready for number 4?
Yeah.
On the ballot in November, I want you to have a line item where the citizens of Vernon vote. If you go back 5 or 6 or 7 slides, you're gonna have 3 choices. And those are the 3 choices that we could do with the type of taxation we want. And Mr. Mayor, I'm asking you to put this on the ballot and have the citizens of Vernon decide
Periodic
November
reassessment and
7th,
revaluation.
whether which way we want our taxes to be collected. And then I want you to shake the blanket, reduce costs. We want a smarter business. You and I, we're businessmen, right? So we gotta run a smarter business for less money and charge our citizens less for their property taxes.
But when you say,
Be smarter, and if you need my help, I do have a full-time job, but I can come in part-time and help. All right, I'm sure there's people in this room, accountants and bill payers, who would volunteer some wisdom to help the town get the budget down, lower my property taxes. Status quo, they're talking about how much money they lost last year and the year before, and the year before. That's all nice. You're throwing a lot of stuff. I want to see what's going to happen moving forward. All of what you talked about doesn't really matter, because November, Mr. Mayor, you're going to have it on the ballot which way we want to do our taxes. Can you do that for us, Mr. Mayor?
I'm just 1 second. So just a couple things. So well, I just want to be clear about something. So ballots have to do with council, so that's not the mayor. So I just want to be clear about that. The second thing I want to address is whether or not there's a reval or a reassessment program or a reassessment. Those are dictated by the County Board of Taxation.
Okay, so.
So at any time, the county could turn around and say, let's say Vernon decides they're not going to do an annual reassessment program, right? Well, one, the county could turn around and say, no, you're going to do it.
Okay, so let them say that.
No, hold on. Or you could, hold on. Or they could turn around and say, okay, you don't want to do the reassessment program? Well, now you have to do a reval. And if you don't want to do, and you do a reval this year, no, let me finish, Sean, let me finish. And if you do a reval 1 year, and then the year after that, the ratio goes down again because of the way that the market is, They can say, we want you to do another revaluation. And they don't ask you, they tell you.
These negative points you're pointing out need to be listed under those three choices when the citizens of Vernon vote how we want our property taxes to be collected in November. You need to have all that whole little speech, good and pros and cons, pros and cons, pros and cons, under each one of the possible things you can vote for. And you have to let us decide, because that's our job, is making decisions as us, no longer in your hands.
So the other thing that I wanted to address too is, you made some comments about purchasing in general. So I just want to make this very clear. We have a purchasing manual in Vernon Township. And you had mentioned the minimum, doing the minimum versus the most. Vernon Township has a rule that if there's anything over $1,000, you're required to get additional quotes, whereas the state of New Jersey requires 6,600. So I want to make it clear that every dollar that's spent here over $1,000, they are getting multiple quotes. The township utilizes state contract, county co-ops, federal contracts, federal co-ops. Those are all things that every department is required to do. So I just want to make that clear, because I think that I've heard it in a couple of other meetings and not from you, that there's a misunderstanding where the departments are just allowed to purchase things. There are things that are put in place to not allow that. And one of those things is Vernon Township's purchasing policy is $1,000 or more, you're required to get quotes, which again, the state requires only 6,600.
So there's a mix up here. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So if there's a misunderstanding, obviously there's a miscommunication, right? So if there's a misunderstanding, that means that there needs to be proper communication. Explain it to us like 5 if you have to, so that way we can understand across the board how it needs to be, right?
I agree with you. Yeah, I mean,
Well, I think the purchasing manual is not something that's like, no one talks about the purchasing manual. So when it comes up,
I understand, but if it's happening in multiple meetings, that means that there's a miscommunication. Simple. Right?
and it's nice to have we don't usually get to kind of dialogue at meetings.
guys,
So
please understand that, we're taxpayers too. Right? No one likes.
I live in this town.
We don't want to pay taxes. Believe me, I wish we could be tax free, but it's.
Back to that, right? It's like, if it's being said in multiple meetings, that means that there's miscommunication, right? I hear folks in the back talking.
Well, this is why
And
we're having this.
They're trying to gain understanding, just like I'm trying to gain understanding.
Right.
And there's things that aren't being said, and there's things that aren't being said clearly. And if that's the case, then you guys have to make it clear to us,
Correct.
right?
Well, and I think this gives us the opportunity to do that because we don't really get to have that back and forth, right?
Can you fix that, Mr. Mayor? Can you do this more often?
Comment? There's a lot of money to be made by vendors who are not on the state contract list. Okay, that's like, in fairness, that's a hedge to say, oh, it's on the state contractor list. Those are friends and whatever, because plenty of times my husband has got many bids accepted that were supposed to be given to state contractors because they gave a far better price. So that's kind of like what Sean's saying. It's kind of-
There are still things that we do.
That's a
For example, for office supplies, right? Because we're not just talking individual purchases, right? Like the bid thresholds go for a year, an annual period. And it's not just January, December, it could be like February to February, right? So something like, for example, WB Mason, the township was always using WB Mason for office supplies. Now, I'm sure you and I both know that if you go on WB Mason, you go to buy like pens, they're probably way more expensive if you went to Staples, right? And you bought like the Staples brand. So what the township has done in the past 5 years, if we set up specific Staples Advantage, Staples is actually through a national co-op, so we had to join the national co-op to do that. But we've seen a lot of savings there. And having multiple areas to be able to purchase from,
you have to check those numbers. You don't just.
We do.
You gotta go elsewhere and look for.
Yeah, yes, we do. But again, there are certain things that do limit us because if you're talking a massive amount of money that's being spent over a period of time, we do have to, I'm sorry, like the
The revale assessors.
like the reassessment company. Yes, which is why we went out to bid.
But we're not getting the bids. That's the link that's missing.
Right, but here's the issue is that there are only,
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong,
That makes.
you have to be licensed in the state of New Jersey
It's telling you have to.
to do this.
And approved by the Division of Taxation.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So when we went out to bid, there were only 3 companies. This is not in the control here. Hold on, there were only 3 companies that were approved by the Board of Taxation, the State Board of Taxation. We can't do anything other than reach out to those three companies, which is what we did.
And the.
Okay, but here's when you say once, there's only so much that we can do.
When you go back to the governor and saying, you're asking us
I'll
to
make
do
the
things
phone
that are
calls from now
impossible.
on, okay?
We're not complying. We're not gonna comply with the railroading us into paying one vendor with prices no object.
Sorry.
That's what's being forced on us.
Well, that's somewhere, maybe at the Senate level,
Wherever it is, we gotta go there.
Right.
Is it true that you can only use somebody in New Jersey? It can't be contracted out?
Well, let's say there's one of the contract, I don't know, but they have to be approved by the state board of taxation. So whether they're like listed, whether they're from New Jersey or not, they have to be approved by the state board of taxation. There's only 3 companies that were approved. Now we're down to 2. So listen, I think it's absolutely terrible for this state that there's not enough
So they do.
competition,
Companies do the entire state.
the entire state of New Jersey.
This is for a service that we don't have to buy.
No, it is a service that it is a service that the Vernon Township was required to do for a revaluation. They made the monetary decision to continue on with the reassessment program because the alternative for a revaluation is currently $1.5 million. And right now, and that's in a 1-year period. And right now we are spending $100,000, less than that, every single year for 5 years. So we have a $500,000 price tag versus a $1.5 million price tag.
But that price is being fixed by the fact that the vendor knows the situation.
We can't do anything about that. I cannot do,
The service, there isn't fair competition,
Yeah.
rather than get.
and I agree with you, and there should be more companies that do this. We would love to see additional people start those companies.
if we could choose for 100 of them, we would. Yes, sir.
You could.
When is our terrible sewage contract expired? Sunset.
Well, that's,
That's not really part of this, but
Yeah.
the sewer agreement is through 20,
You guys made a great bid on that one, so.
well, that wasn't done through a bid. That was through an agreement with SCUMA.
I'm for Mountain Creek, so they can build 1,200 units that never got built.
We can, I would love to have that conversation with you after this meeting. I don't want to take everybody's time up with that because I could go on about it and give you a lot more information on that.
The MUA, and they never have an answer.
well, they
I don't think I've ever spoken to you. What's your name?
They do have these meetings. How often do they have? these?
We have a meeting 1:30.
Called the
That's
MUA correctly, and I asked her when this sunsetted, and they act like, what, you got to do to me?
Well, I'm actually the administrator for the MUA, so I don't recall ever speaking to you. I also have another individual in my office that.
All the time. I called it socialized sewage right on my bill.
So,
Is that why I'm paying for a loft as a bedroom now? Pay for Mountain
I don't-
Creek, bad deal?
I don't think that I would love, listen,
You guys made.
it has, no, that has nothing to do with assessment. It does not affect your taxes. It has absolutely nothing to do with your assessment. I would love to have that conversation with you outside, not at this meeting. After
Right.
this meeting, that'd be
after this
great.
Meeting, or
I will,
could take your information down.
Yeah.
We'll contact you back and we'll have it.
I have another question. Online, I can find 5.5 acres for 80,000 and my little slice of a condo is worth 100,000.
I'm gonna go with that.
Mine's worth 100,000, a 16th of a quarter acre, and I could buy 5 acres for 80,000. That's what
You're talking about an improved
improve, what's so,
and versus not improved?
One of them has a structure on it and the other one's just land.
yeah,
Okay, so the land is 80,000. You're saying that your house, your 3
No, it's his
bedroom,
land.
2 bath, his piece of land.
my 1 bedroom lot is worth,
Oh, you're talking about I got you. I'm gonna go over it. If I can continue the presentation, I promise everyone to be able to ask their questions at the end. Here's, just again, talking about savings.
So next time, could you make that bigger? I mean, I'm saying, as close as I can, I
Actually,
can't.
I think you should print it. And give each
You
one
got a copy?
so that you can-
Just look at the screen, right?
That would really be cool.
PDF. These are my notes. This is not the presentation. I did, yeah.
I'll be right back. Let me go make.
You can actually enlarge that.
So our, the gist of this slide is that our legal, and this is for state tax court, And the reason I keep this separate is because state tax court lingers on forever. And, when I first started here, we had over 300 open dockets at state tax court, and now we're sitting around 90. But, and most of that is, still pre-2020 tax court cases.
Excuse me, can you give an example what that would be, a state tax?
So anything under $1 million that appealed to the county and the property owner was unhappy with their judgment, they can escalate the appeals to the state level, which would be state tax court. An assessment of $1 million or over can file directly to state tax court instead of going to the county first. So that's what we're talking about here. And like I said, you know, we're working on it, but we still have quite a backlog of appeals. You know, one of them is, you know, many of those dockets that are open is one really large appeal that goes back to 2016. But, so right now, currently, even though we're still working on state tax court appeals, we're saving about $27,000 a year on our tax attorney fees and also our expert appraiser who, you know, represents us as the expert and writes our appraisal reports for tax court. Yes,
How long have those attorneys been doing that service for Vernon Township?
I don't know how long.
Find out, and I'm
Okay.
interested to see if that service is bid out at all.
Okay, yeah,
Change attorneys often.
I'm not sure. It's the same one since I've been here. I can tell you that. I don't know.
How many years have you lived here?
Have I lived here?
So how many years have you worked for the town?
Since 2019.
2019.
Yep.
So do you think it's time to put that out for bid?
Okay. That. I don't think I
To get it, look around for a new attorney, just as an exercise to be sure we're paying a competitive price. We're not looking to hurt the attorney, we're not looking to sever the relationship, we just want to make sure we're paying the right price. And you can be nice about it, because he's gonna hear that we're shopping around. These are all daily business things that need to be done by our staff on a daily basis, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. The way I'm giving you. What's that?
work 8 hours.
Well, whatever they work, okay? All I'm simply saying is, management, administration, managers need to be able to come up with alternative solutions the way I'm suggesting them tonight. And if they're not able to do that, they need some better management training. We have to get aggressive managers in place that are looking to cut costs and find better ways of supplying more service per tax dollar. And we want to lower those tax dollars. We want more services at a better price. And everything should go out to bid.
Oh, sorry, I hear you. So the next slide. I'll read it out and kind of give you, I know you can't see those. There's a street in Vernon that has 10 more or less identical houses. All of them are on slightly, on a lot that's slightly less than a quarter of an acre. They were all built within 2 years of each other, 3 years, 1964 to 1967, ranch style home, 1,032 square feet. In 2019, half of those properties were paying like mid-5,000s in taxes, and the other half were paying mid-7,000s in taxes for more or less the same exact house. And the reason that happens is because half of those properties filed tax appeals on one, and the other half did not. And the whole purpose of a reassessment or a reevaluation is to bring everyone back to the same playing field, like a level playing field based on market values. So it's not really fair, in my opinion, for the people who are paying $2,000 more than the same house on their street because they didn't want to take the time or didn't know, or whatever the reason, they didn't file a tax appeal while the other half of the street did. So the reassessment now over the past several years has brought them all, they're all, instead of having a $2,000 swing in tax bills for more or less the same house, it varies like a few $100s because some of them are renovated, some of them have a finished basement, etc. But overall, their total tax burden has remained more uniform. We're gonna go over the inspection process now. There's a lot of confusion about inspections, frequency of inspections. I have several slides to kind of go over this. So when will you be inspected? 100% of the town is gonna be reassessed each year. That is whether you've been inspected that year or not. Your property assessment will change based on what the market is showing. In 2019, the whole town was inspected for, just let me get through this section. Because I'm gonna explain it, I promise. And then at the end, if you have a question. In 2019, everyone was inspected for the 2020 revaluation. That's a requirement of the revaluation. In 2021 through 2025, we're doing a 20% inspection cycle. So those inspections for 2021 reassessment, the inspections always are happening the year before the reassessment is put into place. So approximately 2,800 properties are being inspected each year. The inspection cycle is a requirement of the Division of Taxation, and the purpose of the inspection is just to maintain the property records. Here's a chart showing the percentage of inspection versus percent being reassessed each year. So in 2019, 100% of the town was inspected for the 2020 revaluation, and 100% of the town was reassessed for the 2020 revaluation. In 2020, 20% of the town was inspected for the 2021 reassessment, and 100% of the town was reassessed for the 2021 reassessment. 2021, 20% of the town again was inspected for the 2022 reassessment, and so on. So every year since 2020, 20% of the town is getting inspected, but 100% of the town is being reassessed. When you get your letter at the end of the year, or sometimes it's coming in January, December, January timeframe, that does not mean you were inspected. It just means you've been reassessed. And so what we started this year is we added the date of last inspection on that letter to try to clarify some of this. But the inspections by year, and this kind of just reiterates again, in 2019, everyone was inspected for a 2020 revaluation. We are assigning generally the inspections by neighborhood, more or less. So in 2020, that was COVID, that's when it was starting, we tried to limit our contact with residential property owners. Everyone had just been inspected the year before. So our 20% consisted of all the commercial property in town, all the tax exempt property in town, all the vacant land in town, and then residential sales that closed after October 1st of 2019. Then 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024 has been broken out by neighborhood, and your letter that you receive every year also has your 4-code neighborhood ID on it. Is broken out. So for example, 2021 is Fair Lakes, Highland Lakes, Lake Wanda, and a few neighborhoods in between over near Warwood Turnpike, and then so on and so forth. So this slide just kind of lists by neighborhood when they're scheduled to be inspected. And they're, you know, we're gonna try to stick to the schedule as best we can. We're in our last year of this contract, so it's mostly condos that are gonna be inspected this year, with a few residential neighborhoods thrown in as well. There's a few exceptions to the 5-year inspection cycle. These are some common reasons why you might get inspected more than once in 5 years. The first is improvements that might have been made after your last inspection. That will result. So if you add a deck and you were inspected in 2020, and you add a deck in 2021, someone's gonna come out and measure the deck. If you finish your basement or whatever the reason is, you'll get inspected again because of the improvement being made. A property owner sometimes will request to be inspected again. So, most people will get inspected more than once because they requested another inspection be made. Maybe they found something, on the property part that they don't agree with. If someone files a tax appeal, that very often results in another inspection being made of the property. And then also when you receive your letter and have the opportunity to have a meeting with Associated Appraisal Group, sometimes that meeting will result in an inspection needing to be made. The opposite of this also is true. So For example, like on the slide, I know you guys, it's hard to see, but where I like say highlights the schedule for year 2 inspections, right? But maybe year 1, they filed a tax appeal, so they were inspected year 1. We're not gonna go back and visit them again year 2 because we have on record that they were inspected the prior year. So there are exceptions always, but as a general rule of thumb, we do follow a schedule. We are following a 5-year inspection cycle. The inspection process. If you're gonna be inspected in the current calendar year, you will receive a letter. They typically go out in April, like early spring. Those letters only go out to property owners who are scheduled to be inspected. The Associated Appraisal Group website, and I also maintain the Vernon Township's website under the tax assessor section. I update and they update regularly with this in general reassessment progress. And all the inspectors will have a photo ID on them. The first attempt of the inspection is unannounced. It says so in the letter that it will be unannounced. They don't expect to get in. I know that it can be stressful for property owners to just, you get a letter in April and then maybe they don't show up until November, you know, but we're doing a lot of inspections in a short period of time. And that visit is unannounced, and they're gonna do an exterior inspection if it's possible at that time, and they'll leave you one of these orange stickers on your door, letting you know when they would like to return, the phone number to reschedule. You can also opt to have a virtual inspection for the interior if you wish to do that, as long as you have Zoom or FaceTime or some kind of app that would allow you to walk through your home and then see through a video what the interior looks like. The interior inspection generally is very quick, you know, it's like 10 minutes maybe, depending on the size of the home. You know, they have our own record, so they're really just there to confirm and update as necessary. If you receive that orange sticker, and the inspector will come back on that day and time that they leave you. If no one is home at that time, then you'll receive one of these like yellowish green stickers. And that's just letting you know what the home's gonna be estimated at because they weren't able to get in. And again, they'll have instructions on how to schedule or call to have someone come back out either physically or virtually through Zoom or FaceTime to do the inspection. If you disagree with the information they leave on this little green sticker. So after the inspections are done, or I don't want to see because it's only 20% of the town, during the same process, the market analysis is being done by the appraisers, and they're determining market value for the town. So they're going to be divided into the neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods are based on zoning and location. And then for the condos, sometimes, not always, I know the Great Gorge and Black Creek condos, for sure, each model has its own neighborhood, so to speak, versus Hidden Valley ones, not so much, but anyway, so we have condos based on zoning location or model type if it's a condo. And then there's a sales review that's done for each neighborhood. For 2024, the focus of that study was October 1st, 2022 through October 1st of 2023. Older sales are also reviewed, and under contract MLS listings are reviewed for trending purposes. A valuation model for mass appraisal is then established based on that sales review. There is market price versus market value, just like a quick overview of this. The market price is what a home actually sells for. I did not update the slide from the last time, so it's a little bit of an older example, but it still applies for its purpose. So this is a picture of a home that sold April 12th, 2022 for $360,000. $360,000 is the market price for that home. But when you're doing a mass appraisal and you're building a model valuation and market value, we're going to review all the sales within that neighborhood. And after that sales review is done, a market value is then determined. So the market value might not exactly line up with the actual sale price of a property, but that's because that's one of 10, 20 30 sales within a neighborhood. To quickly go over the breakdown of land versus improvement on on your total assessment. It is well established that the division of an assessment between land and improvements is an administrative action. It does not create two separately contestable assessments. A taxpayer seeking to establish a taxable value must demonstrate the value of the entire property, not merely the value of either land or improvements. In New Jersey, improved properties have both a land and improvement breakdown of the total assessment. That breakdown, as has been held up by the State Tax Court of New Jersey, is an administrative action. Ultimately, what the property owner should concern themselves with is if the total assessed value of their property represents market value. So you should really just be asking yourself, can I sell my house or home or condo or land or commercial building for the total assessment? The most commonly referenced tax court cases that has this administrative allocation decisions are a Penn's case from 1961, and then there's a more recent case, Brown versus Borough of Glenrock, that went through the appellate division. The bottom line is the statute requires in New Jersey that we do break out a land and improvement portion of the assessment. There is a methodology. I went into great detail on that methodology of the last presentation last year. I heard it was boring, so I'm not going to bore you with it today, but there is a methodology in how it's established, but a lot of people get hung up on either one of those, either the improvement or land, and it doesn't uphold. So if you're looking to contest your assessment or appeal it or just talk about it, it's really the total assessment that you need to be looking at. The land could be $1 and everything on the improvement would be $1, everything on the land. But at the end of the day, can you sell your house for whatever you're assessed at?
Excuse me, and why does that happen?
What happened?
Why does that happen? So like, that's the situation. I mean, my land is assessed so much more than my house. Okay, the total value, maybe I agree with, maybe I don't. But to say like my property's assessed at 171,000 and my house at 89.
Yeah, so the improvement portion of your assessment is established on the real property appraisal manual that's given to us by the state of New Jersey. And that's very similar to how your insurance company would establish the cost to replace for your policy. So what that manual does is calculate the cost to replace or building cost of your home. And then we also depreciate it based on age and condition.
Well, I went to my insurance company because that was my concern. I said, if my house was to burn down today, what would you, and I have replacement value of my policy. And she pretty much said, because she gave me a thing and saying that it would be, because I have the replacement cost, which everybody should check their homeowners, every year, every other year, make sure, because I heard a story that there was a fire at somebody's house in town last year and the year before, and because of COVID and all the exponential pricing gone up for the building supplies, they had to kick in like $400,000 up and above what the insurance company said. So say you buy a piece of lumber, it actually costs $4, but the insurance company said, no, we're going to put more in, but we're only going to come up to $2 more, not the $4 more.
Right.
So if my house was to burn down, I'm still confused about the part that you were saying, not that what my insurance person just told me, but what you were saying.
We're taking it one step further and depreciating. So there's cost to replace new, and then the improvement portion will also be depreciated based on the age of your home and the condition. So your total improvement portion of the assessment isn't cost to replace, it's a depreciated version of cost to replace. And those calculations come from the state of New Jersey, like we can't change those. So then when you take that amount and you subtract it from what a house sold for, it implies a land value, right? And so that is done throughout the entire town for every sale. And then we establish what we call a land formula, which is made up of 3 parts. And that's how we come up with the land portion of the assessment, and that's coming from the sales review. But again, like to get into the nitty-gritty of that, at the end of the day, can you sell, when you're appealing, you're contesting, you're talking about your home, that's how we get to the total, but what matters to you as a property owner is the total. That's the only thing you can really contest. I mean, I'm not gonna tell them they can't go file an appeal and contest the land portion of your assessment. You can, but this is just 2 of many examples of tax court judgments where it just doesn't.
Maybe I could get with you later, you could show me the 3 things that they go by for the land.
I can show it to you, sure.
Thank you.
So is there a list of these amenities in a house and a price, value for them?
Yeah, it's the real property appraisal manual for New Jersey tax assessors.
So there's, for example, a spot for a hot water based board.
Yes.
And what is that now?
I would have to look.
I mean, I noticed in my own house, my appraisal for my hot water baseboard heat went from 12,000 and change to 14,000 and change.
Yeah.
From one to another, so it went up 2,000,
Yeah.
but it's 2 years older, and that doesn't make any sense when you're saying you're depreciating.
Right, so every year there's a cost conversion, so that appraisal manual, I forgot the year it comes out, so I think it's like 2001, but it's early 2000, the last time it was updated, and then a cost conversion factor from the into account like things like inflation and stuff like that. So that cost conversion factor does change every year, and that's why the improvement portion of your assessment changes a little bit every year, but
But we should all have, everybody with hot water baseboard should have $14,700.
it's based on also, for your classification, quality of construction of the house and size.
I'm talking the heat, I'm talking hot water baseboard heat.
All the
It
calculations,
matters, doesn't matter the quality of construction, it's a boiler, okay, it's a boiler with pipes.
yep,
So they all should be 14,700, am I correct?
well, so those pipes on a house that's 3,000 square feet, is gonna cost more than a house that's 900 square feet, so no.
But the furnace costs the same.
No,
No,
A little bit of difference, and if you're using pipes instead of copper, there's not much price there.
Okay,
So I feel.
I can't change the manual, I hear what you're saying, but I don't write the manual, I just have to use the manual.
People, we're stuck paying for the manual, and that's the problem that we all are having a problem with.
Okay,
They're paying these things that don't make sense.
but these things,
it's all the means to get to the total. We could,
And I didn't want to get to the total, but you didn't mention the fact that the assessors are able to overassess or underassess by 20%. So I think that's all baked in the cake with that extra spot for the land.
so our goal is always 100% market value. What you're referencing is chapter 123, and that's when you file an appeal in a year that there isn't a reassessment or revaluation. So if you have a ratio of 80%, that ratio then gets adjusted to it's called the common level range, to an upper limit and a lower limit, and it's 15%. But since we're doing reassessments every year, it actually does not apply for me. And that's only for appeal defense. It has nothing to do with the methodology or the assessment itself. It has only anything to do with the defense of an appeal in a year that you don't do a revaluation or a reassessment. Yeah. Yes.
Bottom line is this. Now, the municipality needs a certain amount of money.
Right.
You're gonna come to me and you're gonna charge me a certain amount of money.
Right.
If I object to what you're charging me, my neighbor over here, this gentleman on the end, he's gonna end up getting charged what you discount me.
Mhm.
Because the budget is the budget is the budget. So
That's correct.
if that side of the room complains, if when everybody over there complains, this side of the room is gonna have to make up for it because the budget is the budget.
Right.
So number 1 or 2 was get it on the ballot, which way we want to do it. We can stop spending this money. Come 2025, we can be done doing this, wait 5 years and reinstitute it 5 years from now and change our taxes again. In 5 years, we just spent 5 years doing it. It's over. We don't have to keep doing it. We can wait 5 years and do it again in 5 years. And that's what I would strongly suggest. Now, we're talking about furnaces. I don't know anything about furnaces except the houses have them. But the bottom line is this, we need to focus on the budget. Because the less money it costs to run the town, the lower our taxes are going to be. And whether it's me spending it or the gentleman who's getting up and leaving who pays it, somebody's got to pay it. but we gotta get the budget down and spend less money. That's what it comes down to.
You know, maybe I might be a little naive, but you gave the story about half the street was
Yes.
taxed at $2,000 more than the other half the street.
Right.
Well, wouldn't it behoove the town to say, hey, listen, let's do the right thing. Let's get those other half of the street down to what it should be, instead of having them to fight and, you know, maybe they don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the means to hire a lawyer or whatever, they don't know. I mean, it would just be
That's
a
what
way
we're currently doing.
to keep things even, more even.
That's what we're currently, so that's the reassessment, that's the annual reassessment program. You can't cherry pick neighborhoods and certain houses, that's spot assessing, and that's not fair to everyone else in town. So the point of this whole reassessment program is that, it's so that it takes the burden off the property owner. You certainly can still file an appeal, and, you know, there's a handful of people that are winning appeals every year now, and usually it's because they were estimated with the finished basement or whatever. But yeah, that is the purpose of the program, is to make things uniform and fair and not have these drastic swings and differences between similar properties within a neighborhood.
I guess what I meant was just like, if you saw something was unfair, and if it's brought to your attention, then you correct it.
We're not allowed to,
People
yeah,
are
we're not allowed to do that. It's illegal.
Yeah,
It's called spot assessing. We can't do that.
not surprised.
Welcome to New Jersey.
It's 14,000 line items in this town, so, you know,
13,500.
that's tax, there's also incentives, yeah.
But I'll tell you what is unfair is there are people that are purchasing houses that are purchasing it with in mind that this is how much my taxes are. And now this reassessment, in one case that I'm thinking of, brought their taxes up 34%,
35%.
35%. Their right to choose has been taken away. They chose to purchase a house because of the price of the house, the condition of the house, and the taxes, because now you're moving into a neighborhood. And this is what your choice was when you purchased this house. Their right to choose has now been taken away because these taxes have gone up 34%. And there is now there is a financial hardship on your choice that you just made within the last 2 years.
Essentially, folks are
So there's
getting,
nothing
folks are getting driven out early because the taxes are just going up.
That's food out of our children's mouths.
The right to
That's
choose has been taken away.
not right.
Right, well, I think it's because, I mean, the last time we had, reassessment, right, was how many years before that?
It was
Rebound.
2009
Rebound, right?
before this whole process started, right? It was-
Program is supposed to prevent these huge tax swings, is what.
You don't slam people at once like that.
I
You don't, you just don't. 34% is ridiculous. I mean, you could divide that out. You bet you're not getting that kind of raise at work.
I don't know if they could even do something like that, right?
For what?
So when they do,
It's all based on market.
when they do a 34%, right, increase, right, like,
I would have to look at it.
can you tax people at 15% and then maybe 15% the following year? I don't know. I don't know if that's.
No, I mean, you're trying to always come in at market value. You're not, I mean, easing it. So, but kind of like what the mayor's just saying is when you wait a long period of time, that just increases those big shifts and swings.
Right.
So from 2009 to 2020, I'll get to you, I promise, Sean. There were homes that saw like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 increase in 1 year. And the only reason that happens is because there was 11 years between the last reval. So the longer the period of time in between a reassessment or a reval, the bigger that changes within 1 year. So there's some neighborhoods, yes, that are going up, but it's a little more gradual. There's one extreme example this year that was not the case. But overall, that shift is happening more gradual than being slammed $6,000 in 1 year. And then there's some neighborhoods that are going up 1 year, down another year, up 1 year, down another year. And overall, you know, people in those neighborhoods are saving money. And then there's the complete opposite end. There's people who have their taxes go down a little bit every year. So for every dollar someone's going up, another person's going down, because what Sean just said is true. It's just redistributing the burden of taxes. I totally understand what you're saying. I would have to look at your property to kind of know for sure how much the taxes have gone up on it, but yeah. You're a realtor.
Anybody who's buying a house should take the sale price that they're willing to pay for the house. Look to their agent, have their agent call this very nice professional young lady and say, if I buy this house for $335,000, what are my taxes? She's right. The second, take your name and number, and she'll call somebody back to tell them how much their taxes are. Your friend who bought a house and got punched in the nose for $8,000, their real estate agent should have been a little bit more aggressive. No offense, okay? The question we need to be dealing with right now, arguing what happened in the past or reviewing all the numbers, that's all fine. But we need to be thinking about, do we want to repeat the service for 5 more years, or do we want to wait? And that's the question we need, Mr. Mayor, on the ballot, okay? Do we do it again, or do we wait 5 years and then do it again? And then.
Well, I think the way the program, right, works, I understand, we got the 2 years, we got the 2 years in.
Competition
We,
for the service, we're getting rid of.
well, we don't know in 5 years if they're gonna be, another company out there, right? We can't hold because we're waiting for other
We
companies.
just accomplished it though, right now, according to the professional young lady on the end. In this month, March of 2024, everybody's done. Wait, no, you have to do the contest. We have one more year.
One more.
At the end of this year, right when the election is, at the end of this year, it's either, we're done. We did for the whole town over 5 years, we're done. Let's wait 5 years and do it again.
You understand though that all of your assessments will stay the same that they are currently though, right?
What I know is that young lady's gonna watch the market, and when prices go down, I'm gonna be here demanding that prices be brought down.
That's not, how she can't legally do that.
I
You're missing that.
need to cut on the budget. Remember those phone calls you didn't make that cost us all that money? We need you to make those phone.
You mean
calls.
the bid packets that were sent out?
And all the other calls that don't get made to get us the best possible price for the services that we need. And we need the administration doing it, okay? 1 phone call, 2 phone calls. If you need contractors and you can't find them, phone me up, all right? Just Google my name. You get-
I might actually call you.
Phone.
I might,
Phone calls.
I thought one more slide and then we're gonna open up and then we're gonna come up with questions.
Okay.
What's the 1.5 slides? Both of the same thing. So the tax impacts, I just want to go over this real quick. Because we do send a letter out and we have an estimated impact to your taxes based on the reassessment every year. It's always in the letter. It shows you what your current year taxes were and what your proposed or new assessment is with an estimated amount of taxes. So what that is number one, those letters are going out in December and January. So the budgeting process has not even happened yet. So that rate does not include any change to the total levy, the budgets or spending or any of that kind of thing. So the way that's calculated, and this is always available on the Associated Appraisal Group website, it's based on taking the prior year's tax rate and dividing by the current year's change. So in 2024, we took 2.593, that's the 2023 tax rate, and we divided it by 1.097. So there was a 9.7% increase in the total rateable base of burden after the reassessment. And that comes out to an estimated tax rate for 2.364. Now your letters went out at 2.363. What has happened since then is a few people had some meetings. We made some changes because of those meetings, and so it ends up being 2.364. But again, it's very important to understand that that does not take into consideration any change in up or down, increase or decrease to the municipal, county, school, library, open space, etc. budgets. So that will change a little bit, but just so you understand when you receive that letter, what that actually means. It doesn't mean that that is what your 2024 tax bill is going to be. It's just the impact the reassessment had on your tax bill. And then every year, I encourage people to look at this. It goes into detail of the total assessment for the prior year and the current year, and the average impact of a residential assessment for the current reassessment. And then here's 2 examples where example 1, they're going to see, a little bit of an increase in their taxes, about $100 due to the reassessment, and example 2 will be a decrease of about $130 due to the reassessment. And now Q&A. Have a seat online.
I do apologize. This presentation was available online. So I tried to print out, but it was 27 pages, so I apologize for not, I didn't know how many people were coming, so it's hard to.
Where was it?
Prepare for that.
Online?
It's on our Vernon Township website.
Is there any way to get that posted on Facebook as well? by any chance?
It's also, the presentation is on my Mayor Anthony Rossi Facebook page. I don't know if you're following it.
Follow you, but on the town's Facebook, is it?
The town doesn't have an official
Got it.
Facebook page,
A
so
lot of folks probably use Facebook, so probably be a good source.
yeah, it's on mine and it's also on the township.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
I'd like to share an observation. I share the concern of many people about, concern about taxes. My concern especially focuses on the accuracy of assessments. I've spoken to a lot of people, I've read on Facebook that people have challenged the assessments. They're being assessed for a finished basement, they don't have a finished basement, et cetera. So I think the accuracy is a big issue that people really shouldn't have to worry about. The other thing is, when you look at where dollars are spent, and this doesn't discount what Sean shared about reducing costs through competitive bids. I spent a career doing that. And the CFO shared the policy that the town follows for competitive bids, which is really very commendable, because having $1,000 threshold to get competitive bids is very demanding. Corporations wouldn't spend the time on $1,000. But the real issue is, how do we reduce taxes, property taxes in Vernon? There's a couple of different ways. Again, going back to Sean, we can reduce operating costs. Or we can bring in new ratables that will share the burden. And that, I think, is probably the most realistic opportunity, simply because when you look at the pie, we spend less than 25% of taxes on operating a municipal budget. Now, there are really two types of expenditures. There's direct costs and indirect. The direct are fixed costs, benefits, salaries, et cetera, insurance costs. Those are very difficult to get savings. That's nearly impossible from a government standpoint. So when you take away the fixed cost from the discretionary cost, you're talking about a very small amount of dollars. So if you save, and an ambitious goal is to save 10% across the line. So you're saving 10% off a very small portion of the tax that we need to collect. So at the end of the day, let's say you can reduce costs by 10% year one. It makes it twice as hard for year two to reduce another 10%, so on and so forth. So I see where Vernon should focus on is accuracy of assessments. Absolutely continue aggressive bidding, make sure that's done correctly. But we need to focus on bringing new ratables into the town. And I'm just curious, we have Pat Rizzuto here who served the town for many years. He has great expertise in this area. Pat, I'm just wondering, from your perspective, where do you think is the greatest concern in terms of property taxes?
How do you mean concern?
Where do you think opportunity is that the impact or burden of the cost of operating the town is on property tax, yeah, private property taxes. What do you think is the best route to getting this under control?
If you're asking where we can reduce our property taxes, you hit on it. The point is, township has about let's see, for argument's sake, a $30 million budget. Ms. Bright, what would you consider to be the set number that we need for fixed overhead out of that $30 million?
Fixed overhead,
Yeah, salaries,
counting-
stuff that we,
counting debt service,
counting debt service.
like my answer. I mean, honestly, my answer is $30 million. I mean, the only thing that we put aside like for capital is probably
No,
around two.
I'm talking about
three.
what's discretionary versus what's mandatory by tax, by budget, by contractual implications.
In corporations, the rule is that 66 to 70% of your spending is in non.
So I think it's probably more than that because we also have pension expenditures that are set by the state. I mean, and I would include something like health insurance is included in that. So I would probably say 85 to 90% of it.
So
Honestly,
basically, out of a $30 million budget, you're gonna probably have $10 million, I'm sorry, $3 million, 10% that you have discretionary income on.
Mhm.
So if you were to save 10% on $3 million, you're looking at $300,000. Right?
10% up. Yeah.
On that $3 million. The rest is not something that council, township, or anybody can say, we're going to reduce unless you want to start looking at the reduction of services. Because realize this, the number of police is predicated on the ability to respond, yet your roads, the amount of roads in Vernon don't decrease. They remain the same, and in many cases, they increase. DPW, you have a set number. You want to make sure that your roads are plowed during winter. You want to make sure that your potholes are filled during the summer. And yet the roads don't change in terms of the amount. So DPW remains about the same. Your care of parks. Excuse me, I'm talking, Mr.
I'm gonna have a question and I'm a citizen.
You may be a citizen, but I'm also talking.
Exactly what you're saying. You're saying that these costs, you have no control over them, they're fixed.
That's right.
What I'm saying is, and I'm sorry to do this, but you mentioned the DPW. If you go over to the DPW and you sit with a manager and you say, show me where people were last week.
So what?
You have X amount of men, where were they? Running a DPW is a very serious business, okay? And what we've done is we've taken good guys who know what they're doing and we move them up the ranks. But I don't know that they have the skill set that they need, and maybe we need to give them the skill set so they can be better managers to manage our DPW at a lower cost. And where people are and what they're doing during the course of the day, it's very expensive for taxpayers. So that every department, there's a manager there who with better skills can run it for less money. And we need to take that attitude across the board. Every manager needs to come back and say, how do I reinvent what I run here and do it for less money?
Right, you're going to look at these savings that you base on $300,000 available area for.
$3 million is what you just said a few minutes ago, right?
If you saved 10%, you can't reduce that $3 million to zero because that's a discretionary amount. The amount of paper, the amount of pencils, the amount of All of those things are included in that discretionary area. And you're not going to reduce that to zero. It's an impossibility.
You know, some of the things too, that I've been going through, you know, the budget and so many things that you don't realize, especially when you have to start replacing, you know, emergency service, life-saving equipment that has end of life. I mean, the price tag, I mean, I wanted to vomit. That's, I mean, and you don't have a choice. You have to replace this stuff.
Shared services.
There's only some, right, this is why, you know, there's only so much you can cut off of, you know, the operating cost here. So where else can I go, right? Where's a lot of our money spent? So we're spending money elsewhere. Let's start doing those shared services, right? Which is what I kicked off with the Board of Ed. So, you know, that will take a little time, but it's not too far in the future, by all means.
Shared services don't mean, wait a minute, shared services don't mean the complete abdication or the loss or a revision of those amounts. They don't just disappear. What we're doing is we're shifting the weight.
We're taking a little bit of the school budget where they were gonna build the potholes in the parking lot, just like the mayor's doing. And we're getting the DPW to go there. But the key,
But there's a cost to that.
There's a cost to that.
managing the number of hours our DPW spends anyway.
There's
For
a,
example, I'm gonna jump all the way back to the pump track and the trail, right? Not gonna discuss it, just think about that.
Thank you.
Nobody can tell us how many hours the DPW spent there.
That's not true.
Well, that wasn't supposed to cost.
It's not true.
listen, you're getting far afield.
Accountability across the board.
Mr. Clark,
Yes, sir.
you're getting far afield. The question that was raised to me by Mr. Knight, where he thought, I believe we should be able to see our attention grow to. Now, cutting isn't really enough to do anything of any significance. We need growth. We need more ratables.
I'm not saying.
And a gentleman over here previously was talking about the MUA sewers. Without those sewers, you would not be able to even have any consideration of substantial growth. Right now, on the tablet, so to speak, we have 55 homes that are units that are going to be put on the board for attachment to the MUA in the center of town. We also have 175 to 180 new homes going down on 94 across from the
208 homes.
200
Plus from the condos.
across from the condos. All right, and those are going to be put on the MUA's scale.
Yep.
Very good. Now you gotta feed people. Whoever accomplish that needs to get some steroids and do it 3 or 4 more times.
Thanks.
Okay, that's what it comes down to. Good job.
I've sat here
Yeah.
and I haven't said anything purposely because this is the mayor's meeting. But to say that you want to have more bidders, that's nice to say. But we don't control that. And no, you don't.
Why don't you?
Because there are bid specs that every bidder has to fill out. You require documentation to the state of New Jersey. You require a license from the state of New Jersey, and you say, call the mayor. You just don't call up the mayor. Come on, be sensible. What kind of a businessman believes that they're going to pick up the phone and call the mayor? The farthest, the closest you may get is probably a secretary.
You're gonna tell me that
The governor, yeah.
I'm sorry, the governor.
He meant
The governor.
Oh, I was gonna say, our mayor picks up.
No,
He meant
the governor.
Well, can I say something? I'm very glad to hear. I was listening to the last town meeting and what the mayor is doing with the shared services. I don't know what percent now, according to what you're saying, Pat, there's only a percentage that is shared off the cost then. It's not tit for tat, like,
No, so basically the way it works, right, is so that if we send out, the way it would work hypothetically is that you send out DPW workers to fix the catch basins, right?
Right.
That's a cost to the township, right?
get paid
So-
for salaries.
So, right, so that would be calculated out and that would be billed to the school versus the school going with a private contractor who it's gonna cost X, Y, and Z more. So that what happens is there's a shift, like Council President Rizzuto was explaining, it's a shift in cost, but there is a cost savings. So if it was originally, and I don't know what the numbers were, but let's say it was $15,000 and it only cost us in time and materials $3,000, that's a savings for the school. Now, ultimately, if the school saves, well, they need to save. If the school saves, right, it should reflect on their budget. We can't control their budget.
That's my
Whoa, whoa,
problem,
whoa, whoa.
that's my problem with, if we're doing our part, they.
No. We legally cannot, and I know you don't like the word.
I went
legally,
through
but
this
we
today.
legally
I went through
cannot
today
control
with the
their budget.
CFO about,
We are this is a type two school district. The mayor and the council have absolutely no control of their budget, none. So
Listen,
I am not a school administrator.
the council, the mayor and the council can inform us and educate us about the schools. And we're gonna come up with good ideas to help the school cut their costs.
I think the best way to do that is to a school board meeting.
You know, Mr. Clarkin,
you gotta go to the school board for that.
That's the.
no,
Whoa, it's easy.
Right, but I'm saying you.
can you please stop talking? Because what you're doing is you're passing on bad information. Making a suggestion is different than telling people what we can do. We know what we can do. But going and telling you or telling the community what the school board is doing is presumptuous on our part. We don't know what their planning is. We don't know what their long-term debt service is. All of those things that's their prerogative, and you should go to their meetings to hear that.
Right.
All right? And when you hear, then you raise it. Then you raise the question. We have no ability to put any other influence on the board other than the mayor has gone over and spoken to them. I have gone over and spoken to them on occasion and pointed out what's happening within the township and let us work together. The shared services agreement doesn't make costs disappear from our budget and go to their budget or vice versa. It removes, hopefully, a middleman. You know, if we can have some extra time where a DPW worker can work a chainsaw and knock down a tree where they can't do it because they don't have facilities or a person to do it, then we can do it on their behalf and they don't have to call a tree service, as an example. So the point that I'm making is they have their way of doing things. They have their budget. They have their professionals. They have their auditor, and you need to speak with them. We in turn have the same thing. We're replicated, but we're totally different.
Like I said, the Board of Ed has opened up the door for, for allowing us to come in and see where we can save some money. So, and I have said it before, I applaud them for that. And they really are trying to cut, but there's only so much that I can get myself
Well, the need.
in with them, right? I can't.
Because they were so in debt and cutting the school buses and.
Well,
cutting this.
this is a new administration too, right? So whether or not they're doing it because of the past problems, or it could be a combination of both.
But this is not the question that we're addressing. Either we increase revenues or we decrease appropriations. And if we were to decrease appropriations, the amount to make any significant difference, we wouldn't really notice it. Because what's happening is the value of your homes are rising very, very, they're almost exponentially when you start looking at it, really. When you're seeing how homes go from 335 to 425 in a period of 3 to 4 years. That's it's a very stiff move. Why is it happening? Because of demand. People were willing to leave the cities because they didn't want to get involved with COVID and whatever, and move here and invest that time and money. And now what you're running into is you have this reassessment that you find going up every year. If you were to stop doing this reassessment right now, and the market were to remain steady for at least a year and a half, 2 years, or whatever, as Mrs. Bright said, your taxes would remain the same. They're not going to change. But you get a major blow up like we did in 2008, when your values of your home went down, $450,000 home went down to 350, 325, maybe in some cases under 300. Then your taxes would be reflected on that market. But if you don't, if you don't stay in the program, it's going to be there, and you're never going to experience that reduction until you sell your home, rather than when taxes are reassessed.
Your budget now is $80 million, so the home costs go down, now you.
The tax rate will go, so if the overall.
$30,000 around the
You still
30
need
million.
that much money to run it, so what does that
So
do for us?
overall, if the overall assessed value of the town goes up, the tax rate comes down, and then if the market were to correct itself in reverse, and the overall assessment of the town went down, the tax rate would have to then go up to balance, and that's always true. But again, if you're in a neighborhood that went down more than, average, then you would see
Somebody's
reductions.
gonna pay,
That's happening.
somebody's gonna pay that tax. You
Right,
still have that much
exactly.
money.
It's always gonna be a
Right, the
redistribution of the
So
tax.
somebody's paying the tax.
Yes.
That's right.
How much is the service a year?
The contract is 98,200 for the last 4 years of the contract, the first year was 100,000. So it's a total of 490, it was on my slide, I forget the exact amount, it was like 490, $500,000, if you want to call it even, $100,000 a year.
Over those 5 years, how much more in taxes have you collected?
So again, it's not as a result of the reassessment, but the levy has gone up anywhere. So that's the levy, when I say levy, I mean the budgets have increased, and that's not just municipal budgets, all the budgets have increased anywhere from 1.58% to 4. Since the reassessment, it's 3.2%, down to 1.58% per year. And that's gonna happen regardless of the reassessment, that's just the budgets.
I can't read that, but
I know.
can you tell us what the overall budget, so if we're at 80 million now, what were we at in 2019?
2019 was 72,898,690.51.
So I just want to be clear, the school budget in 2019 increased, I believe it was 6%. The following year, they increased 5.5%. The year after that, they increased 3.5%. So, and you're talking, their budget is a lot bigger.
Right, the municipal budget has held steady, 2021, 2022, 2023 has not changed at the municipal level. For those past 3 years, it did change from 2019 and 2020, but the past 3 years, the municipal, not, excuse me, I'm gonna correct myself, I'm not gonna say the budget, but the, what's the wording?
The amount to be raised by
The
taxation.
amount to be raised by taxation has stayed the same for 3 years.
Silly question. You mentioned that the town would get reassessed if let's say we had a market blow up like we did in 2008, right? The town would get reassessed, right?
Yeah.
And let's say the assessment of the town doesn't go down, what happens?
So it's always a balance. So the way you get the tax rate is you divide the total levy into the total amount of assessed value. It's that simple of an equation. It's literally taking the 80,372,636 that we need to collect and divide it into our total rateables of almost $3.5 billion. and that's the tax rate, so,
Right, but if the town gets reassessed
yes.
and the assessment doesn't go down, but our
So then
house.
tax
property
rates-
values do.
Well, no, it would, so it would have, if you're getting reassessed and the market is going down, your property value has to go down.
Right.
But are your taxes going down then?
Right, that's what I'm asking.
No, because you have one pot.
They're less, but we're still
We're
paying
still
more.
paying high taxes.
So it depends, so.
We have to think creatively, right? Like, we have to come up with some creative solutions to try to offset the balance.
Right, so here, so
Every year, people's taxes go down as a result of this program, but, so the way
Half.
you know if that, yeah, it's usually about half.
it's usually, hold on, it's
But
usually
the way
half
to
of the
know-
people's taxes go down while the
And
other
then
half goes up.
So-
It's one big pie that's gonna be divided, right? So, and right now, the market is not,
The easy way to know if you're one of those people is like this year, the whole rateable base went up 9.7%. So if you went up more than 9.7%, you're gonna pay more tax. If you went up less than 9.7%, your taxes will be less. And that's the same with the opposite were to happen. So if the town as a whole went down 5% in value and you went down 8%, your taxes will go down. And someone went down 2%, their taxes would go up, even though their assessment went down.
I'm not saying the town goes down. I'm saying what happens if the town's taxes gets assessed and it stays stagnant, but everybody else's home value goes down.
So the levy, so the amount of money to be collected stayed the same.
Same.
And then when assessors went down, the tax rate has to go up.
the amount, so
You still have to collect the 80 million.
the amount, hold on. The amount to be, the amount to be collected through taxes, that $18.9 million, right? That's based on whatever the budget is that year and the valuations of the township. So like, that amount to be raised by taxation is solely for it's solely to cover the municipal budget and all the other, right, appropriations with revenues that we have. If that amount to be raised by taxation stayed the same and the valuation of the township went down, I mean, the taxes stay the same.
Of the township.
The tax rate would go up.
Property taxes go down?
Yeah, the valuation is,
Goes down? When you.
property value is property valuation. Right, so the valuation of the town is the valuation of all the properties in the township. So if your house is worth $230,000 and that's what it's like assessed for, right? Like that's part of that valuation of the full township. So in order to calculate the amount to be raised by taxation, it's a formula, right? Like we have the total appropriations, including the schools and the county.
The operating cost to run the town doesn't go down just because our.
Right,
property
that's correct.
values go up. So we're still paying, I think, high taxes.
Heidi would like to say
But-
something.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
We could be here all.
Yeah, sure, no,
But something is not making sense.
I'm trying to,
No, something's not making
Bring it
sense. There's
together.
no common sense. If you have $80 million and you have, say, 200 homes, why don't you just divide the $80 million to the 200 homes instead of taking directions from the state that's putting pressure on you to follow their system?
well, they said.
So that's, hold on. Hold on, okay, so one, okay, you're talking about dividing taxes equally across everybody.
You can come up with.
No, hold on. But you're saying that we should divide $80 million across every piece of property, no matter what kind of property.
I'm just kind of like, the system is so complex. But the real thing I really want to say, and to truly understand, as a tax assessor, how do you become one? How did you learn this?
You went to school. You got a degree. No,
You have to be certified by the state of New Jersey in order to do that.
But with whom?
The state.
Well, the state of New Jersey sets the test.
Tax assessors gotta be certified, and how often?
Every 3 years. Well, the first cycle is 5 years and every 3 years after that.
And then you have to pay for that.
Yeah.
And then the county tax assessors, where do they get certified?
Same.
Same thing.
Division of Taxation.
With the state.
Right.
Now, the state tax assessors, they go national assessors.
Yeah.
I researched this a very long time. There is an international association, assessors association.
IAAA.
What is it? The
Yes.
IAAO. That's an international association for all assessors. And being that we are being infiltrated by globalism and New World Order, this system began decades ago. So if you don't do your job, you lose your job, there'll be somebody who will. And they instruct you how to put this system through. And the system is so, you can explain all you want, it still makes no sense. And it was never like this 50 years ago, 60 years ago. The taxes, the amount of taxes that we paid 50, 60 years ago, it was minor. I mean, people, a father could go get a job, get a car, get a house, put his kids in college for the salary he made. And they're going towards this new globalist, new world order. And that's where I believe, and you know it because this country is falling apart. And we are no longer United States of America, the corporation. We are now a federal, Republican.
We are a Republican. No,
Now we are, but we are. There is so much going on in our country and something's going to happen huge. And if you want to take a huge step to really think and think out of the box for the people that are supposed to govern, not the state, not the country, the people supposed to govern because we are self-governed. So we need somebody who's going to say, we've had enough. This system isn't working because it's choking everybody. So that's all I had to say.
We have people on Zoom.
Yeah, but
who also have hands up.
we gotta take some calls.
Let's do Chris Brady. Chris, I don't know. If
Chris?
you can hear us.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I gotta.
We hear you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, sorry I couldn't come there and yell at you in person. But I got kids at home. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, I mean, kind of what the lady before was saying, but like less of a QAnon bent. There was a NJ.com article about ghost towns in the next like 50 years or so, and Vernon was ranked at like number 2 or 3 in likelihood to become a ghost town. And I'm thinking, you know, what's effectively happening here is you're bringing property values to the market level. You're acknowledging that the market level is inflated, or the market value is inflated. So in effect, people are going to be driven away over time. And there's no really infrastructure to draw people back in. I mean, hopefully the schools are in a good place, but I think what you're seeing is a big risk of becoming a ghost town. And I'm kind of curious, you know, as someone who moved here in 2022 and has had their property valuation increased 30%, and then 10% again this year, so that my taxation has gone up 30%, and now it's going up 10%. I'm curious, like, what the vision is here in terms of bringing in people when the cost of living here is going to be higher.
I think that problem is not just in Vernon, right? I think it's across New Jersey that you're seeing a lot of people leaving the state, right? Because of all the high costs. You know, all we could do is just try the best we can with trying to keep our costs down.
And work with
Just try-
businesses, right,
yeah,
to
work
attract
with
businesses and development.
We gotta bring some more.
Like the assessment portion of what you just stated, just to clarify, so if your assessment goes up 30%, that doesn't mean the taxes go up 30%, because every year since 2021, it went up a tenth of a penny or a penny. Every year since 2021, the tax rate has actually come down. So in 2021, tax rate was 3.143. 2023.
I think you got to ditch that slide with the pizza pie on it, because what's really happening is I paid 11K 2022. It's 14K for my taxes in 2023. I mean, I know what's leaving my bank account. You could do the gymnastics around tax rate and assess value all you want, but like bottom line, I know what's coming out of my Wells Fargo account.
We're talking big jump.
Thank you.
Can I get
Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. We gotta take a couple more.
of course,
We'll get to you 1 second.
I don't know too much. That's really the collective, but go ahead, I can try.
well, if the population is getting older
Okay,
in town, how much of effect does that have on our tax system? Because
yeah,
from what I understand, so even if the tax is going up, if the majority of the taxpayers now are more seniors,
Right.
theirs is not going up, so.
So,
fair.
so they still pay the full amount, and then the state of New Jersey refunds them the difference. And yeah, listen, where does that money go? Our income tax, right? That's where that comes from, but, so
I
they
get it.
still pay, you know what I'm saying? They still pay the full amount, and then they'll reimburse the difference.
I'm trying to get there, They penalize savers because if I had 401k, and I had that, so they penalized me for
Thanks,
a couple of years. Thank you.
No problem. We have Jesse Palladini.
Hey, Jesse. Jesse?
How are you? I don't really know what to say at this point. I had to wait 2 hours just to even be able to comment while we heard the same people comment 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times.
I do apologize, Jesse.
I
Yeah, he got away from us, so.
It's okay. All right. What my concern is this, we don't need to hear what the process is. We know the process. We don't need to keep hearing over and over again how to calculate our taxes. We know that. What we need to hear is, when is this annual reassessment going to stop? Now, I think I heard somebody say that the annual revals are ordered by the county. Now, that's not true.
It can be ordered. The one we're in now was not, but Hardison and.
Okay, stop right there. Thank you. The one we're doing right now is not. When you say things to the public like, it's ordered by the county, you are misleading. Okay? And again, as I said before, I don't need to know how to calculate my taxes. I've been doing this for 35 years, way long before you and Donnell have been doing it. The bottom line is that the problems that so many people are having, we had a Zoom conference where we had 34 people on the call, and the stories that we heard were horror stories. We didn't talk about how to calculate your taxes. We didn't talk about what the process is. What we talked about is stop the insanity with the annual revals. And when you make statements like it's ordered by the county, you are misleading. One of the most intelligent comments I heard any elected official say came from Brad Sparta, actually, a couple of months ago. And what he said is, you have taken away the public's right to appeal their taxes. Why is that? Because if I appeal my taxes by the given deadline, it's only going to be 8 months before you go ahead and you raise them again. So what are people going to do? Appeal them year after year after year after year? I don't need to be shown pie charts to see that this percentage goes to the school, this percentage goes to the town, this percentage goes to the county. Oh, we have no control. There's nothing we could do about any of that. I'm calling to say, stop telling the people that the county ordered it annually. Can any one of you tell me what New Jersey state law says about how often you have to do a reval? Don't take my time away, just please answer that question. How often do you have to, based on law, do revals?
So it's based more on these criteria. And so there's no set length period of time. It's the ratio 85% or less, a coefficient of deviation greater than 15%, too much revenue lost during appeals, neighborhood zoning changes, lack of adequate records, And then if none of those criteria have been met for a reval to be ordered, then that 10-year marker is when that comes into play. But there is no set number of years. The 10 years only comes into effect if you haven't met these other criteria sooner than that.
So for
Okay.
example, can I just, I'm not gonna take your time away, Jesse. I just have,
I had,
when we were ordered for the 2000, for the reval that was done in 2020,
Yes.
that was ordered in 2019, 2015.
My understanding is that was ordered in 2013 for the 2015 tax year.
So it was ordered in 2013 and we had done a reval in 2009.
Right.
So 4 years after we did a reval, they ordered because of the ratio. Just the ratio?
It was the appeal, number of, our ratio was over 100% at that point, and so as a result, we.
Okay. Okay. But
Right,
please
so it's
just,
not a 10 years. That was, I just wanted to show like for an example, it's not necessarily always 10 years.
no, I never said it's
I
definitive.
know, I know. I think it was.
I was just kind of reiterating,
What I am saying though is that, so, do it every 5 years. Just stop the annual insanity. Because people are being taxed out of their homes. And they are. They are. You have 1 year left in the current contract with the assessors. We don't need to hear, oh, there's only 2 companies in all of New Jersey. We don't want to hear that. We want to hear, when are you going to stop the annual reassessments? Because you don't have to do it annually. The county does not order it annually. You've got 1 year left on the current contract. Even if you don't do every 10 years, if you don't do every 8 years, even if you do it every 5 years, for the love of God, please stop the annual. That's where all of the problems came in. And as I said in that phone call that we had, and I have a recording of that because we recorded our meeting, you will hear the horror stories, the mistakes, people being assessed for having attics when they don't have attics, people being assessed for all kinds of things when they don't have that. I'm just going to finish it right here and say, this is our 3rd such meeting. No offense to you, Mayor. You're doing a wonderful job in trying to address absolutely everything. I'm very impressed. But this is the 3rd such meeting where we're told, this is how you calculate your taxes. This is who we have to hire. This is how you do the pie charts. Please, just stop the annual insanity. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you for making me wait 2 hours to say it, but it's okay. It's okay. Thank you.
I'm the new guy. I mean.
I know. I said I'm very impressed with everything you're doing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I got Peg Distassi.
Okay. Hi, Peg. Peg?
Hey, thank you for taking my call. First of all, I want to thank Mayor for holding this meeting. I do wish, though, you would have kept better control of the intrusions by the public and making them wait until the end to give Kristen a chance to do her presentation without interruption. It was very hard to follow the way that it went. Having that been said, when I was on the council, I can assure you that we spent every amount, as I'm sure you are, Mayor, every amount of time bringing our budget to the minimum. And in hindsight, I can say that our budget was good. And I'm sure that coming forward, your budget will be so, right down to the absolute bone. Where that takes me is to this. I'm not sure about the Board of Ed, but I know they have a lot of contractual issues to deal with. And I'm sure that they are also under the same stress. And it also brings me to the county, which I will say in remiss, I am not that up on how the county spends their money. So I would say this, as a taxpayer in Vernon, trust our elected officials. Trust our elected Board of Ed. And trust our county officials if you have done your homework and elected the people who are qualified to be there. If not, don't go into that box and just push a lever because you recognize a name, because it comes back to haunt you ultimately. We need to be aware of who we're electing, why we're electing, and what their experience is. Now, having said that, I will say that I am and have said this for 2 years in favor of the annual assessment because I think the figures show it works. Now, having heard a lot of things tonight from a lot of people who are complaining about it, nobody has taken away your right to appeal. If there is a mistake on your appraisal, go to the assessor and look at your card. It is your responsibility as a taxpayer to be sure that your records are correct. If there is a discrepancy, take it to the first level. Discuss it with the appraiser, discuss it with the assessor's office, and if need be, take it to the county. But this is not totally on Vernon. This is also a taxpayer's responsibility, and I'm tired of hearing that Vernon is out to get everybody. Vernon is out to screw everybody. That's not true. We're just trying to pay our budget and our expenses to run our town in a safe and secure manner. Nobody's out to get anybody. If you think you've been unfairly treated, speak up. You're a taxpayer and you have that right. Thank you, Mayor, for letting me speak.
Thank you, Peg. Have a good night. We got one more caller and
You too.
thank you.
It is always every year someone's right to file an appeal. The deadline to do so is May 1st. It's done. If your assessment is under $1 million, it's done at the county level first. If you're unhappy with your result there, you can escalate it to the state tax court. If your assessment is $1 million or over, you can skip the county altogether and go right to state tax court. In full transparency, the stuff in tax court, as I discussed earlier, it sits there for years. So, if we could handle it at the county first, great. If not, it's your right to go to tax court. And then we have Karen Taylor.
Hi, Karen. Hello, Karen.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was muted.
That's okay.
Okay, I work in the legal field and I've been listening. I'm newer up here. I've moved up here 2 years ago and I have a couple of multifold questions. I understand a little bit better how you're doing these analyses, but from what I understand about the market analyses, it's not supposed to be done generally just by neighborhood sales. It's supposed to be done by comparative market analysis, i.e., homes that are of the same nature, same size, and value being weighed against each other as comparable sales in the town. And what I'm not understanding is the grouping of sales, i.e. a household next to me for $400,000, but it's a lot larger home and it has a greater floor space and value than my 1,245 square foot ranch. So I'm trying to understand how that works, just grouping. And the second thing is, why aren't we being provided with the comps so that we can see what they're utilizing to make those market assessments. That's of concern to me. And a third thought I had in listening to your presentation tonight, and these are just things that are coming to mind. The land, as far as being usable land, I mean, I can speak for myself. I have a very small plot of land, less than a quarter of an acre. The front yard is all septic and the backyard is a mountain of radon. So an assessed land value of $200,000 seems fairly outrageous for land that's not very usable, but that's a whole nother parameter to take into consideration. And my last question is, being on a private road where we don't have our potholes paved, actually our road, Dorford Terrace, is in deplorable condition. We don't have any kind of plowing or any services really. Genuinely, I would like to know how that can be brought before the council to make that at least a public road where we have those services provided, in that our taxes are going up just like others, but we don't have those.
What road is that?
A Dorford Terrace?
I think you're also gonna have to look at like the land use board approvals for that development.
Oh, okay.
So the sales used are available on the Associated Appraisal Group website. You could download them.
Thank you.
It's, if you have a pen, or it's in your letter as well, and it's also linked on the Vernon Township website under the tax assessment page. It's njaag.com/Vernon. So you could download that. They make that available every year. And so this year it's all the 2022 and 2023 sales that were part of the market analysis. And you are correct. It's not just specifically within the neighborhood itself, but it is comparing like homes to others. What you're, I don't know if this is what you're asking, but what you're not gonna see is something similar to if you were to refinance your home and have an appraisal report done that's 60 pages long with 3 to 5 comps adjusted. That's not what mass appraisal is. If you were to file an appeal and the township had to pay for that kind of appraisal report, we would at that time. But mass appraisal is done based on a group of sales, not just these 3 were used for your property and your property alone. If that makes sense, but you can view all the sales that were reviewed as part of the market analysis every year. It's always available on their website.
And how did that change from, the past law wherein they had to use comparative market analysis sales to now being able to utilize just a generalized grouping of sales?
Oh, it's for the establishment of the assessment. It's always been this mass appraisal model. I don't know if Rick has more input than I do, the CC appraiser, but it's always been done that way. And then for the appeal, it's different. So if an appeal is done, that's what the township does, and part of their defense, utilize specific sales. But the mass appraisal model has always been based on a grouping of sales to value a group of property.
So essentially, if the only way I can have it really examined for comparative market value is to do the appeals.
If you wanted, I mean, I have in the past when someone has asked like a really quick little grid of comps, I think, support an assessment, but usually they're coming to me because they disagree with the assessment. I say, okay, I'll take a look, and then I make this little grid. It's nothing fancy, but it's always triggered by someone contesting, either informally or formally through an appeal. The appeal grid that's used for the defense of the appeal on the township level is much more elaborate than what I do just for someone coming in. And that's just because at the Sussex County requires us, and then at the state level, and sometimes at the county level, we have an appraiser, we have an expert appraiser that will write a full appraisal report, many pages long. But it depends on the case.
My main concern is the drastic increase in valuations, I guess, and that's why I keep asking about the comps, because essentially, I just purchased the home within a 2-year period. I've had 2 walkthroughs. The last walkthrough being in October of last year brought it down actually a little bit. And then I got this appraisal, wherein they increased it $36,700 in value from October until January. So these are very concerning, incremental numbers. And I don't have any kind of understanding as to how that could happen so significantly in such a short period of time.
It's, I'm just looking at your street, so like, for example, if you don't mind me using your street as an example, there was a sale of a 1,596 square foot home in 2021, sold for $315,000. Again, in 2021, 1,248 square foot home sold for $280,000.
That's
And
my
then in
order.
2023, a 1,752 square foot home. So these aren't drastically different in size, especially the 1,500 to the 1,700 square foot home that sold for $415,000. And that's fairly consistent to what we're seeing, not just in Vernon, but throughout the state, right? It's been huge increases in value over the past three or 4 years or so. Like I said, when I compare I haven't done it for 2024 yet, but when I compare 2023 assessments, 2023 sales to what they were assessed for in 2020, I mean, the ratios are like 50%. So they doubled in value since 2020. And then on top of that, I do track the, of the homes sold in 2021 and sold again in 2023. Like the difference in value between those two sales are often 30+% over a 24-month period of time. I mean, that's over 1% increase in value per month for the same house, in the same condition at both sale transactions. And there's several, I mean, there was one that sold in 2023. I don't have a spreadsheet in front of me, but say it sold in April, it was on the market, someone bought it. And then I don't know why, but they sold it again in August, say, and that alone, within 1 year, a short period of time, was over a 30% increase in value for the same exact condo, no renovation done, nothing. So where does it come from? It's coming from the market.
Okay, and as far as my other question with regard to the services that are offered, is, when you're talking about maintenance of streets and everything, how do you get that addressed with regard? I mean, like I said, our street is in terrible disrepair, and I feel, if the taxes are going up, that we should have some say as to having repairs done, potholes fixed, plowing, because we don't have those services.
Or for terrace, it's I like the community garden.
Just trying to figure out where you live.
I don't know if it's a township road or
No,
it's not.
it's a private road.
I mean, it was, I don't know, because I wasn't around when that development was established, but I would assume that when those homes were built and that development was created, whatever was done at the land use board at that time, they had decided that that road, when it was being constructed, was a private roadway and it would be the responsibility of the homeowners. That's not unheard of. That's actually the norm usually, is when a new development comes in, it becomes, either the obligation of the private homeowners, or some places form a homeowners association and they take care about themselves for individual dues.
How do you get that reversed? I mean, you're talking about houses that were built in the 60s.
They have an
So there would have, no, they don't have an HOA. So, I mean, I would recommend that you probably reach out to the land use board and find out what kind of approvals were done to land use board from that time.
Okay.
Because it's not a township road, so.
No, it's.
You have to bring it up to township standards in order to have it taken over by the
Right,
town.
right, and that's the other thing. If it's not at township standards, I don't know what the standards were back then. It would have to be brought up to the standards of the township in order for the township to even contemplate taking it over.
Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have more hands.
You know, let's say goodbye to Rick. He's been on for a while.
Which one?
Hey, Rick?
Yes.
Rick.
No, thank you. I guess you can drop. I mean, we already went way past our time, but I just want to thank you for your time. I appreciate, he's from the appraisal company.
Yes, you're welcome. And I didn't find the need to intervene because I thought Kristen did an outstanding job in explaining everything. Couldn't have done it better myself.
Great, thank you.
Thank
Thanks, Rick.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye.
We have Denise.
Denise?
Denise's iPad.
Denise?
Hi, my name is Denise Hart, and I have Kristen assessed value, and full disclosure, I'm a realtor.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean I'm saying or doing anything the way it's done for assessed values. But my understanding is for all time, our taxes are based on assessed values. Assessed values come from the market, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so speaking to the person on Dorford and the $415,000 home that you spoke to, I know that home, it was part of a comp I had to use for a sale in Vernon Valley Lake, which fell within the distance that an appraiser would use for a comp. And I mean, that house was totally renovated. It was amazing. But I can tell you other homes in that area that had a high value of 375 and up that had 1,700 square feet or more. So I'll speak to my own home. I'm over in Sun Valley. My assessment came in at 303. Last year it was at 306. Since COVID, our prices have more than doubled. You said that. I bought my house in 2005 for $294,000. When the Great Recession came, my property value, because of the Great Recession, I dropped under 200,000. It took until 2019 for my home just to get back to about what I paid for it. And now since COVID, and I don't know if people really know what's going on with real estate. I've tried through various forums to tell people from a realtor perspective exactly why you're seeing all these high prices. In Vernon, there are right now 71 properties for sale, and they're not all properties that you can live in. There are about 15 homes in Great Gorge, which are full-time living. There are about 33 single-family homes through the rest of the community. And then the balance of that is Minerals, Appalachian, Black Creek, and 2 properties in Tall Timbers. According to the census, we have 8,972 households in this town. We have nothing. We have nothing. Our clients for the realtors will tell you, ask them. We have many more buyers than we do homes to sell. And in Sussex County, we have 62,000 and change per the census. And as of today, we have 285 homes for sale. So this is why your price is going up, because I had a house in Highland Lakes that my folks lost, and there were 17 bids on that house. And my client was number 16 out of 17 lowest bid. And they went way over asking price. This isn't going to be forever.
Excuse me.
Yes.
A moment. Your number of home for sale, I mean, residences in the township is actually a little bit light, probably close to 2,000. All right. I think they're probably closer to 10,000 plus in terms of residences based upon.
Yes, I don't disagree. I'm going by the 2020 census that says household from 2018 to 2022. It says 8,972. I don't disagree with you that there might be more. I can only use a number that I had something to refer to.
I understand that, but to
I think he's saying, he's reinforcing.
Thank you.
And that right now, we're looking at a real estate market that is, supply driven, meaning there isn't any. And there's a high level of demand. And you're seeing significant demand based upon what supply is there at an interest rate for mortgages that's over 7%.
And the homes are still selling.
And they're still selling. Thank you. And yet, if we see what's going to happen, let's say there's a change in the federal, in the rate put up by the Fed, and that interest rate drops down to say 6 or 5.5%, or begins to show a downward trend. Now you're going to see a bigger move in your supply. But right now, even with the static of 7% interest rates and the low supply within the county, within the township, you're seeing excessive, demand level. Because
Mr.
of the
Rizzuto?
the multiple quotes on individual homes. And that's what's driving up the tax valuation, the assessments. And people keep asking me, what's going to happen? Well, if you stay with this, eventually this is going to drop.
Yes.
If you see these interest rates plummet to 4, 4.5, 3, as they've done in the past, you're going to see the amount of supply, increase substantially, because people are going to hope that they were saying, I'm not going to sell right now because, I don't know where I'm going or whatever. But if they start putting their homes on the market at this increased or lower interest rate, then everything begins to drop, including the assessed valuation. And then when you would expect to get the difference from where you were when it was at 7% and you held off, to now when it's at 4% and you have a huge supply, a backlog, you're never going to get that amount of tax that was put into your home, that was imputed into your home back. You're simply not going to get it. You're going to be stuck.
Mr. Rizzuto, a couple of things just to add to this. Number one, the country is short 8 million homes because new construction stopped with the Great Recession. But the one thing I was calculating for myself, and this has to do with the assessment, my $300,000 assessed value. If we went back to a normal market, and a normal market actually has historically appreciated better than what I'm going to use. But at 3%, if I calculate 3% every year appreciation, my assessed value hypothetically in a perfect world could potentially in 10 years be 403. My taxes would go from 6,900 to 9273. If you wait 10 years to reassess me, just me, I will have to come up with an additional $2,500 in change in 10 years. That's where, if the market goes back to normal, which it eventually will, I have no crystal ball to tell you when, because we have no inventory, and the world, the CPI and all the other things that make up the data analysis of this doesn't have a crystal ball on when this is going to happen. But when it goes back to a stable market, of course, we all want our properties to appreciate. This is our dream for, having a nest egg maybe when we retire. And the reality is, when it goes back to normal, it's still going to appreciate. Do you want to wait 10 years and have to come up with that much more money, or when it stabilizes have a nominal increase? Because right now we are seeing huge increases. Every single one of us. I went from an assessed value of 260 last year to 303. And I can honestly tell you my home would sell for 315 to 320. Not inflating it. That's what my home's worth in this market. I don't want to wait 10 years and I don't want to wait 10 years personally, maybe 5. I'm not saying I'm necessarily 100% for every year, but I definitely don't want to feel in 10 years I have to come up with $2,500. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you. We have Frank, I apologize, if I pronounce this wrong, Pietrowski.
Hey, Frank. Hey, Frank. Frank?
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yep. Hey, Frank, you're on.
Hey, how's everyone doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. So here's, I would say it's not really a question, it's more of a statement. So I bought my house here, my childhood home. Thankfully, I'm lucky enough to do that. Back in 2016 for $153,000. I'm just going to ramble off some numbers. So in 2021, right after the assessment started, it was valued at 262. In 2022, it went up to 287. In 23, it went up to 346, and over a 50K increase. This year, it's set to be 375, another 35,000 increase, let's say. So I understand the reasoning behind the yearly assessments. I get it. I feel like it was horrible timing, because what happened was, and what's still happening is, people are overpaying for these houses. This is not a realistic market, and everyone's being taxed on it. And that it is literally unfair to the taxpayers. And I just hope, I pray to God that when home prices start to fall again, because a recession is going to happen, that our taxes fall with it. For some reason, I'm not going to hold my breath on that, because I have a very good inkling that when, all this revenue the town's generating from all these extra taxes you guys are collecting, in essence, that's what you guys are going to be spending. So when we go back, let's say, and I'm only paying, $7,000 now in taxes because my home value went down instead of $9,000. Where's the township and the schools going to come up with that extra money that they're used to spending? That's my concern. So I'm going to put this out to the public. I hope everybody who
Thank you, Frank.
who really feels their taxes are unjustified goes and challenges them, because I think that's our only next step, to do a mass appeal. Thank you.
I've always said it too. I always felt that the timing was not good. And
Timing is horrible on this.
the best I could do is just, still operate as if we're in a recession, right? And try to keep our costs down.
And I get nobody has a crystal ball. I get it. But, when we saw the writing on the wall, when we saw what people were paying for houses, we should have held off and let the market stabilize. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. So
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you. To clarify again, we have to collect the amount of money we have to collect, no more, no less. The reassessment doesn't increase revenue for the town at all. We still just collecting the $80 million, not just, it's not, I'm not trying to say that $80 million isn't a lot of money. It absolutely is. But the reassessment doesn't change how much money we have to collect. It's just redistributing who's paying what. So if the assessments come down, we still need to collect the $80 million, and then maybe it's, 83 million, 82, whatever it's gonna be. The assessments coming down doesn't change how much money we have to collect, just like assessments going up doesn't change. It's all a balancing act. So if the investments as a whole go down, the tax rate will go up to compensate it. If the assessments as a whole are going up, the tax rate comes down to compensate for that. Not on an individual basis either. So when I say compensate, don't get it wrong, there's 45% of the town that will, in 2024, who's gonna see an increase in their taxes because of the redistribution of the burden. And 55% will pay less because of it this year. That just happens to be the percentages for 2024. But at the end of the day, we still have to collect the amount of money that the schools, the municipality, and the county need to operate, no matter what the assessments are.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone else anyone who wants to ask a question?
I just have one quick one on the annual assessment. Is there like an analysis done, say a periodic versus annual?
Yes.
Could you not do a periodic with like a trigger where, home prices went up X% or down X%, it would trigger then that we needed to do a reassessment? We didn't have to do them every year where we're spending that money to do the assessments each time.
Yeah, so
You didn't have big fluctuations, you know.
mhm. So it really comes down to then the cost of the different, I use the term options very lightly because, and I know Ms. Palladini put this out earlier, if I said that we were ordered for the annual reassessment, then I clearly misspoke. This reassessment was not ordered. However, an annual reassessment can be ordered and has been ordered within the county, within 2 municipalities, and then there's other municipalities that have just applied and opted in, and we happen to be one of those. But it really comes down to cost. So if you're doing an annual reassessment program, is more considered assessment maintenance on an annual basis. The cost of that is about $100,000 a year. And that's because the company doesn't have to allocate as many resources in one given year as they would for a one-off reassessment or revaluation. So if we're only inspecting 2,800 properties instead of 14,000 properties, we see a savings there because of that. So if you do a one-off reassessment, pick however many years in between you want, this division of taxation requirement for that is 100% inspection in 1 year, and those bids come in at $100 a line item. So in Vernon, that's over $1.4 million versus $100,000 a year. So you could, in theory, stop, and then if the market changed, do a full reassessment, and say that happened over a 3 or 4 year period of time. I don't understand, and this isn't my decision to make. I don't make financial decisions in this town, but wouldn't you as a taxpayer or the mayor or the council, excuse me, I just kind of like lost it in my brain, pay $300,000 over that 1 year period of time versus $1.5 million? I don't know, but you know, it's not a small difference in price. A lot of roads could be paid for that money. A lot of whatever service you guys need in this town could happen for the difference in cost here. And that doesn't even take into consideration the amount of money refunded during appeals during that period of time.
And
But
the cost for attorneys.
and all that kind of stuff. But it's really just a cost analysis of financially what's best for everybody. And the fact of the matter is, to do it all in 1 year periodically costs a lot more money than to just maintain it on an annual basis.
Yeah, can I just want to piggyback off that, just again, to kind of like make this clear. So right now it's costing us about $500,000 over a 5-year period. A revaluation, we're allowed to, by the state, break out the cost of a revaluation over 5 years maximum, right? So we would have to take that 1.5 million and break it out over 5 years. You're gonna be paying $300,000
plus interest
for one reval. That's good for 1 year, which means a year later, if whatever the ratios are off or the coefficient, whatever, right? They could come back and say, you need to do it again. That is a mess.
That didn't happen.
No, they didn't, but they did do it in 2013.
Okay.
So 4 years later, no, 4 years after we did a revaluation. So we did a revaluation in 2009. 4 years later, the county ordered that we do a revaluation. Now, because of the condition of the tax maps and everything else, it took us between 2013 and 2019 to actually do the revaluation. We had to pass a special emergency appropriation for all the tax maps to be done. We had to pass another special emergency appropriation for the revaluation to be done. The revaluation was paid off in 2022. That was the last time we appropriated for that, but that was a $200,000 cost plus the cost of interest because the town had to take out a note to pay it off in that 1 year. So, right, we're not talking about just $1.5 million. We're talking about $1.5 million plus the cost of a note. And you're looking at the least for 1.4 million, right? At the least $280,000 a year for 5 years, when you could have $100,000 a year for 5 years. It is literally like
project that price going forward forever. That price was negotiated 6 or 7 years ago, that $100,000 a year. That was negotiated long before they started.
Right, we-
Just like everything else went up, that likely went up as well.
It could, yeah, and it, like, it could go up, but as Kristen explained. I mean, do I think it's gonna go to $280,000 a year? I don't see 280,000, that doesn't,
Of course, we're gonna go to 12.
right, I mean, I don't foresee something like that happening. I mean, we could we'll reach out to Hardiston and Newton, right, is the other one that.
Hardiston, Newton, Franklin.
Yeah, and we can see what they're, what they're paying, right, and what we would kind of expect come 2025. Or I should, right, 2025 is when it would have to be decided.
So,
But I also.
no, it'd be this year.
The new tax maps, why do we need to spend money on tax maps?
I hear.
Well, we did, that was mandated, we had to, I mean, the condition. The condition, we're ordered by the state, so like, I mean.
But you can still appeal things. I don't understand why we spend all this money on stupid tax maps.
No,
This is ridiculous.
this is all things that probably at the Senate level, where they create these things. It's not here. But I think people, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? I mean, we should only be seeing one knock at the door, right? Every 5 years.
Yeah. So what did happen, to be clear, right? And she, right,
You're not
Kristen
gonna have
did
an
explain this.
inspector come knocking every year, right? And I know we had the back-to-back, and believe me, it frustrated me.
We had the reval and then the reassessment program had to start after that, right? Because it's kind of like a maintenance thing, if that makes sense. So that we don't have to get to the revaluation point.
What happens if there is an error? I just was told about this property tax assessment card that you could get from the tax assessor,
Yes.
which I never knew about.
Yes.
Shame on me. Anyway, there seems to be an error on mine. How and who do I talk to about this?
Come to me.
Correct.
You can contact Kristen.
Yeah, you just come to me and we'll go over it. There's timing issues and just, so
I'll come to you tonight and just say, here, you look at it, you let me know.
but sure, we'll do that. I get your phone number, but just because this is something that a lot of people want to know, I am constrained by deadlines that are not in my control. So once the tax list is finalized, which by statute is January 10th. Right, but here we are. Usually in like September, October, I have a feel if I'm gonna need an extension. And the only other reason I ever file for an extension is to allow for these informal meetings. I'd like to have at least 3 weeks of that available for you guys, for the property owner. So in September, October, if the inspections are progressing and I can anticipate inspections are gonna run through December, I'm in the county tax board in the early, like fall time saying I'm gonna need an extension because I want to offer at a minimum 3 weeks of meetings for residents, because in that, it's so important that in that 3-week period of time, that when you receive your letter, everyone should review their property card and have the meeting then, because then we can make that change in this year for 2024. Once the tax list is finalized, and that happened February 2nd this year, that's when I asked for the extension till I can't make the change unless you file an appeal. So it just makes it, and it costs you $25 to file the appeal. And these aren't things that I can change. So that's kind of the process we're at now. So let's review your property card. If a change needs to be made, you'll have to go through the appeal process or wait until next year. Those are the two options, unfortunately. I'm not saying I personally agree with that, but that's kind of just the law and the statute, and that's kind of what I need to follow. So yes, let's review your property card, go over it, and then I can walk you through the appeal process to have it corrected.
Okay.
I'd like to just, again, perhaps I'm repeating myself, to offer a solution. So far, we haven't really heard a solution how to abate property taxes in the future. Again, I'll say the only realistic way, ultimately, we have two decisions. We become a town where we don't care about the cost of taxes. Usually that's the case where there's a superior school system, quality of life issues, et cetera, et cetera. That's where the millionaires live. The other solution is we become a financially viable community, which increases the burden of taxes into the commercial arena, where we have lagged so far behind. The township has great opportunities for, and I'm gonna underline, smart economic development. That doesn't mean bringing in a big box company, but, well, first of all, they won't locate here. It's not going to be bringing in industry, they won't locate here. It's about leveraging our great assets as a environmental, recreational, entertainment township. And I think if we concentrate on appealing to those industries, we can dramatically, over the course of time, increase the rateables that take this burden off of private properties.
I look forward to hearing from the chairman of the Economic Development Committee, so.
Again, this option, of course, doesn't happen overnight. But I understand the chairman of that committee is gonna work very hard at looking.
I know he will, and I look forward to it. So I want to wrap this up. We're almost 50 minutes over. So thank you, everyone, for coming out today and sharing us your concerns. And thank you, Kristen, Janelle, Pat. Thank you, guys. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Everybody taking time.
If anyone has MUA questions, I can answer those too.
This was a refreshing experience.
Good. I think, the time it's late, so, yeah, believe me, I would love to have these during the day. This is where we have,